It's a bit early, Holmes. You expecting anybody?
No, boy. No, not.
Well, good morning, Mr. Holmes. Oh, am I glad to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry to come barging in on you like this, but I'm in trouble. See, the situation's a bad one. Oh, it's a real stinker. I'm in dead trouble. Now, you be careful how you handle that. That's a brand new tit for. See, now, you'll understand when I explain it to you, see? Now, my name is Harry Croker, and I'm chin-deep in trouble. Right up to there. Oh, if my poor old grandmother could only see me now.
My name is Dr. Watson. This gentleman is Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, you're the only man who can save me. Now, you've got to do something to save me, see? Everything depends on you see? My life, my career, my future... Look, the lot. Yes, well, it all depends on you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, but what save you from what, Mr. Crocker? Well, if you can find the time, perhaps you'd like to sit down.
Yeah. Thank you. No. Yeah, murder, I'm afraid.
What?
Yes, I've been accused of murder.
Oh.
Me! Yeah, and I wouldn't harm the air on a fly's head. Not even on a beaten fly. Yeah, I faint when I see blood. And they go and accuse me of murder. You know, Mr. Holmes, now, look, you're a man of intelligence and capacities and appetites like... See, you're a man of education.
Crocker? Did you say Harry Crocker?
Yes, that's right. Here, perhaps you've seen me perform at the local vaudeville theatre. Escape artist extraordinary. No bolts, chains, or shackles can contain me. Just like it says on the billboards.
Yes, I'm sure.
Mr. Crocker, who is accusing you of murdering what?
Who? Well, the police.
What?
Yeah, they come right in, and they say, you're guilty, Harry Crocker. Aye. And then they whisk me away without saying another word. Mark you.
I say, Holmes.
Yes.
This man is a fugitive from the law.
Yeah, is there a picture of me in there? Is it any good? I hope it's my right profile. It's the best. Oh, wait, what do you think of that?
It says here that you allegedly killed a young chorus girl named Sally King last night.
Killed? I tried to get rid of her.
I should say that amounts to the same thing. It also said that you were taken into custody by the police.
That's right, yeah, that's what I said. But then, you see, I decided I had to go and see Mr. Holmes. And so, I left.
What? You left?
Yes.
Oh, how? Look here, Holmes, this man might be dangerous.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that, Dr. Watson. Easy-going Harry Crocker, that's what they call me. Always a smile and a song when things go wrong. Eh?
It's the police. They surrounded the house.
You're probably after me. I just duck in there for a moment so as not to embarrass you gentlemen.
You already have. We're not in the habit of harboring fugitives.
I wouldn't dream of asking you gentlemen to do anything that was contrary to your conscience. No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, Holmes, you were seen coming in here. You're treading on thin ice. Very thin ice. Oh. And what have you to say to this?
I don't really know, Inspector. No, it's not my style at all. But if you really want the owner, he's in that...
Thank you, Holmes. I had a bad moment there.
Harboring criminals, obstructing the police in the execution of their duties, giving false statements to the police.
That's remarkable. Truly remarkable. Well, I must say, that fella has the most remarkable flair for disappearing, Watson. Don't you agree?
Well, I'd prefer he'd practice somewhere else.
Inspector, what's the case against Harry Crocker?
He's a murderer. As if you didn't know.
Yes, you inferred as much, didn't you? But what are the facts, my dear fellow?
He's a performer at the Empire Music Hall. Last night he left with one of the chorus girls.
This Miss Sally King.
Yes, that's right. Short time after that, she was found in the alley, dead, strangled.
I see. I'd say you had a pretty slim case, you know.
The stage doorkeeper heard them quarreling on the way out. And a newspaper boy has testified to the fact that Crocker came out of the alley alone. Not so slim now, is it?
I think the straight's got the right man this time, Holmes.
And Crocker denied all this?
Not at all. He's admitted the truth of every statement, point by point.
Well, then I don't see what all this...
Here, wait a minute. Here, we had a quarrel, all right. Yes, we quarreled. But I never killed her, so may I drop dead.
Well, where on earth did you come from?
Well, Mr. Crocker, let me be the first to congratulate you. Absolutely inspired. Now, tell me, how did you do it? How did you manage it, eh?
Here I am?
Yes.
Oh, simple. See, all you have to learn, Mr. Holmes, is a few basic tricks on my business, and the rest is chicken's feed.
Professor, you're under arrest for murder, Crocker. I won't you any more of your tricks and I'll be the worse for you. I promise you that.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, see, Mr. Holmes, that girl was only trying to capitalize on my publicity. Yeah, I gave her a smile maybe once or twice, but you know how these floozes are. But that's all. That's it.
Yeah, take him away and try and keep hold of him this time.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, please. You must do something for me, Mr. Holmes.
We'll do our best,
Oh, God,
yes, but you better go quietly now. You go quietly, will you?
Quietly?
Yes.
All right. But don't forget, will you?
I shan't.
You won't forget.
No, I
You
shan't.
promise?
Don't worry.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, you won't forget me now, will you? You'll do your best to save me, won't you? Please, promise. Well, I could put old grandmother going to see me now.
I'm warning you officially, Holmes. Don't interfere with this.
That's really remarkable, Watson. Absolutely remarkable. Have you any idea how possibly he could conceal himself in that closet?
Don't push Lestrade too far, Holmes. He's been after your hide for a long time.
Yes. Would you care to accompany me to the music hall tonight, Watson?
Why, are you on the trail of something, Holmes?
Several things. First of all, I should like to know why Harry Crocker killed this woman, if he did. And if he didn't, why should anybody want to make out that he did?
No, I think Lestrade's got the right man this time, Holmes.
You really? Well, we shall see. We shall see.
Holmes? Later that afternoon, Holmes and I went along to the Empire Music Hall. Not to be entertained, mind you, though I dare say the day gave promise of that. We stopped for a moment to chat with the news vendor who repeated the story he had told Inspector Lestrade. He had been standing on that very spot the previous evening when Harry Crocker passed him coming from the stage door exit. Crocker had definitely been alone, and what's more, he'd been in a temper. I must say Holmes did little to break down the fellow's story.
Come along, Watson. Good afternoon. My name is Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yes, indeed. I've heard of you, Mr. Holmes. My name's Charlie Willis. I suppose you've come about Sir Harry Crocker's trouble.
Yes, I have. Tell me, is there any other exit from backstage to that alley out there?
Oh, none, sir. The only other way out is round through the front of the house.
Then anyone going from this area to that alley would have to pass your desk on the way.
Yes.
I presume you remain on duty throughout all performances?
Well, I know what you're getting at, sir. But like I told the police, as soon as Harry walked out, this girl came chasing after him. Ooh, buzzing like a hornet she was.
And where did you see her next?
Oh, not until Miss Zaza came screaming back through that door. I ran out and found the girl lying there, dead.
Then I understand that neither Mr. Crocker nor Miss King returned through that door last night after you saw them leave.
Well, I'm afraid that's it, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Holmes, I'm afraid Inspector Lestrade has got his foolproof case.
Granted, of course, that the inspector himself is foolproof. Miss Zaza, where might she be found now?
Oh, the girl's dressing room.
Which one?
Oh, they all use the same one. It's the second door on the left, down there. Better knock before you go in.
Oh, we shall, sir, I assure you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willis. Good afternoon. Watson.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be of service to you, gentlemen.
Yes.
what is it?
Oh, excuse me, madam. I'd like to have a word with Miss Zaza. Is that good?
It can't possibly. She's busy. We have a show to do, you know.
Yes,
Here I come in my gonfalon. La 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 la. Carry on, lad.
Well, hello.
Mr. Holmes, I knew you would let me down. Evening, Dr. Watson. It was a real pleasure to see you again.
Yes, but Crocker, the police.
I expect they'll be along soon.
But how did you get away this time?
Gave me a twist and a twirl. And while they're looking one way, I grabbed the other. Mr. Holmes, have you cleared me yet?
Well, not quite yet, Harry, but it'd be easier if we could have a word with Miss Zaza. But unfortunately, some old busybody in there won't let us in.
Oh, Bessie?
Yes.
You wait a minute, huh? Come right in, gentlemen.
This is a most uncomfortable business, Holmes. Really, I beg your pardon.
Gentlemen, this is Miss Zaza, singer extraordinary. Now, Fanny, tell Mr. Holmes everything he wants to know. And don't be shy.
All right, Harry. What would you gentlemen like to know?
Oh, well, we're sorry to inconvenience you, Miss Zaza, but,
That's all right.
I understand it was you who first discovered Miss King's body.
Yes, I did. It was just horrible. One minute she was standing here next to me, right where you are now, Mr. Holmes. I could touch her. And the next, it was just horrible.
Yes, of course, it must have been. Then you were here when Miss King came off the stage last night, is that right?
Of course. She came in here very angry and in a very big hurry. She tore up her costume. Excuse me. Then she put on her clothes and she ran right out again.
I see. Was she in a hurry to meet Mr. Crocker?
Was she? I didn't want to repeat what she said. You understand?
No, of course not. I quite understand. Then, just to be quite certain, she rushed in here to change her clothes, and then she...
Put on a locket.
Locket?
Here he is. Gentlemen! Don't let him get away this time.
What do you think you're doing? What do you think you're doing, you, eh? Eh? You let me go. You let me go. What do you think you're doing? Let me go! Here! Go! Save me! Here! You're arresting an innocent man!
I thought I'd find a bunch of you here together. You'll have a great deal of explaining to do, Holmes.
I should be delighted to, Lestrade, but first let Miss Zaza finish what she was about to tell me.
What does she know about it?
I was only going to say that Sally wore a locket that Harry gave her when we first opened here. She couldn't wear it during the show, but she always put it on immediately afterwards.
Locket? What's all this about a locket?
A little trinket. It didn't amount to a thing.
Did this Miss King wear this locket last night before she left the theater?
Oh, yes, always. She said she wouldn't be caught dead without it. Oh.
Oh. Did you find this locket on the body, Lestrade?
He hasn't changed since last night. We haven't been able to hold him long enough to search.
Here, I can explain all this, Inspector. I can explain everything because I'm innocent, you see. I'm innocent.
Oh, poor Harry. Why did you murder her?
And now, we return to the case of Harry Crocker.
Don't usually get morning visitors around here, even with police permission. Here's the little lady.
I see. And the clothes she was wearing, have you got them?
Yes, sir. Won't be a minute.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Obviously strangled.
From the position of the finger marks, it appears she was facing her assailant.
Yeah.
Yet her fingernails, which are rather long, show no signs of a struggle.
I don't follow you, Holmes. Holmes!
Did you see what you did? You didn't try to fight me or beat me off. You merely pushed my hands away.
Yes, that's right.
Why?
Well, I didn't want to strike you.
Why?
I didn't want to injure you.
But I was choking you.
I guess I didn't take that seriously.
Exactly.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, you didn't take me seriously because you know me too well. But say my attack had come at the end of a savage argument.
Well, that would have been different.
Ah, now you're getting to it, Watson.
By Jove, Holmes, you mean that the girl in Crocker had a savage argument, she'd have clawed his face?
Yes, but she didn't.
Then whoever attacked her, she knew very well. And Harry Crocker's telling the truth.
And the problem becomes who is lying.
Here they are, just like they come off her.
Oh, that's very good of you, but I don't think we shall need them now. And thank you very much for your assistance. Good day.
Where are we off to, Holmes?
Well, we're going to the theatre, where I believe we will provide what they call an added distraction.
Oh, Mr. Holmes and Dr. Woodson. The police have just been asking for you. Well, where have you hid from this time?
Hidden in? Harry's obviously escaped again. He's a most extraordinary fellow, isn't he, Mr.
If you're responsible for this, Holmes... Now, look here, Inspector. Holmes and I have only just arrived here. And after all, it isn't the first time he's given you the slip, is it?
I'm surprised at you, Dr. Watson. A man of your professional reputation and military background. I'm surprised at you.
An excellent portrait of the late Miss King, what, Holmes?
In happier times, Watson.
What's on her?
What, not again, Harry?
No bobbers around, I hope.
And I think I ought to warn you, Inspector Lestrade's waiting outside.
Well, I had to drop in here to give him the slip. Do you know, I never had been able to work out this trunk trick. Now, my father was a wizard in it. Yeah, good thing you happened to come along.
It's a fascinating business, Harry. Do you mean to say it's possible to get out of one of these baskets unaided?
Oh, my father did it twice a day on the stage. Used to have exhibitions where they locked him inside and threw him in the river. And up he'd come, free and smiling. Great sport, the old man. Bless his soul.
He's passed on, then?
Last time they threw him in the river.
I thought so. Get him!
Hey, let me go. Here, where's everybody? Here, come on, here, what are you doing? I'm an innocent man, I am. Here, what are you doing? Here, listen, please. You're gonna believe me, I'm an innocent man. I never killed that girl, Inspector. I took her out after the show once or twice for a drink, and then we were dancing a bit, and that's all I'm
going to put you where I can keep an eye on you. You've slipped for the last time, my slippery little man.
Hey! Here! Let me go! Take it off!
Oh, just one moment, Inspector. Tell me, Harry, did Miss King join the show in Manchester, or had you met her before that?
No, she joined up in Manchester. I never saw her before that. Stage-struck kid, you know the type.
Wait a minute, Holmes. How did you know about this girl being in Manchester?
Well, all her clothes had Manchester shop labels. And this portrait of her was both drawn and signed in Manchester, as you will notice by the date, May 1897. Oh, Harry, I've had a certain amount of experience with lock-picking, in a purely amateur way, you understand. Now, I wondered, do you suppose that this little piece of wire of 3/16 diameter would in any way manipulate this lock? Say we inserted it through here like this and then bent the loop.
That's a good idea.
Wait a minute, Holmes. Nonsense like that at a time like this. Take him out of here. Hey!
Excuse me, Inspector.
Here, hold on to him, see? No, not like this, no, like this. With both, you understand? With both hands.
No. Hey, Mr. Holmes!
That is the end of the Harry Crocker case.
But Holmes, I do beg your pardon. I didn't notice that you...
It was my fault, Dr. Watson. Oh, look, I spilled my makeup on your coat.
Yes,
I'm terribly
of course,
sorry, sir.
that's it, and don't apologize, young lady. We're all indebted towards you.
I beg your pardon?
You've just proved that Harry Crocker couldn't possibly have murdered Miss King. Here, Lestrade, ask Harry to come over here, would you?
What do you want now, Holmes?
Well, let's settle that. And now, Harry, perhaps you'd run through that trunk escape for me, eh?
Oh, no, you don't, Holmes. This is far from settled.
I must say, Holmes, that even I find it difficult to follow your reasoning.
You do, Watson? About what?
About murder, Holmes. A girl has been murdered.
That's certainly true, Lestrade. And if I were you, I'd devote more time to apprehending the real criminal and stop annoying Mr. Crocker here.
That's right. You stop annoying me. See, you stop annoying me.
Now, look here, you.
Excuse me, please. Willis?
Yes? Did you want me, Mr. Holmes?
Not I, Mr. Willis. But I believe Inspector Lestrade does. For murder.
I don't understand, Mr. Holmes.
Then let me explain a little, Mr. Willis. First, there is the obvious connection between you and Miss King. Both of you lived for a number of years in Manchester.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that
The girl's clothes and picture came from Manchester. She joined the show there, her first job as an entertainer. Mr. Willis here wears a Manchester school badge. His desk is covered with clippings of a Manchester cricket team, showing a loyalty of long attachment. And if you require anything further, well, he's just admitted it himself. I'd wager, too, that you were instrumental in getting her a job with this company.
Well, what if I did? She could dance a little. She was very pretty and...
And you thought she was throwing away her prettiness on Mr. Crocker.
Well, I advised her against seeing him, yes. After all, I felt responsible for finding her a job in the company.
Not responsible, Mr. Willis. Jealous. And jealous enough to kill.
That's not true. I saw her go out after Harry, and the next thing I knew, she was dead.
So you told us. And so the entire case against Mr. Harry Crocker rested upon your testimony. But you overlooked something.
What was that?
Miss King did go outside to speak to Harry, and they did quarrel. But then he left, and she came back.
Is that true? Not a word. She never came back through that door.
The sleeves and collar of her dress still bore traces of her stage makeup when it was found on her body. Yet she herself wore no makeup at all at the time of her death. We checked that, didn't we, Watson?
Absolutely none, Inspector. Good man, Holmes.
Miss Zaza testified that Miss King didn't have time to remove her makeup before rushing after Harry. Yet how else, then, could she have been found without makeup? Unless she had returned and removed it. And when she returned, Mr. Willis...
Well, you've mixed things up. Stop him!
Don't tempt me, Charlie. I owe you a few as it is.
She played me along till she had the job here. She didn't care about Harry, or about anybody but herself. She deserved what she got. Take him out. Holmes, now where's he gone?
Well, I don't know. Well, listen.
Oh, you've done it, Mr. Holmes. You've done it.
Eureka! Yes, I've done it. Now, look. By passing this spring here, I get this little wire, pass it through against the spring-loaded catch on the outside, you see. By pressing it in at an angle of 45 degrees, I release the catch against that thimble, that arm of the thing, and it unlocks automatically. And then, hey...
Holmes? Later that afternoon, Holmes and I went along to the Empire Music Hall. Not to be entertained, mind you, though I dare say the day gave promise of that. We stopped for a moment to chat with the news vendor who repeated the story he had told Inspector Lestrade. He had been standing on that very spot the previous evening when Harry Crocker passed him coming from the stage door exit. Crocker had definitely been alone, and what's more, he'd been in a temper. I must say Holmes did little to break down the fellow's story.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yes, indeed. I've heard of you, Mr. Holmes. My name's Charlie Willis. I suppose you've come about Sir Harry Crocker's trouble.
Yes, I have. Tell me, is there any other exit from backstage to that alley out there?
Oh, none, sir. The only other way out is round through the front of the house.
Then anyone going from this area to that alley would have to pass your desk on the way.
Yes.
I presume you remain on duty throughout all performances?
Well, I know what you're getting at, sir. But like I told the police, as soon as Harry walked out, this girl came chasing after him. Ooh, buzzing like a hornet she was.
And where did you see her next?
Oh, not until Miss Zaza came screaming back through that door. I ran out and found the girl lying there, dead.
Then I understand that neither Mr. Crocker nor Miss King returned through that door last night after you saw them leave.
Well, I'm afraid that's it, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Holmes, I'm afraid Inspector Lestrade has got his foolproof case.
Granted, of course, that the inspector himself is foolproof. Miss South, who is accusing you of murdering what?
Who? Well, the police.
What?
Yeah, they come right in, and they say, you're guilty, Harry Crocker. Aye. And then they whisk me away without saying another word. Mark you.
I say, Holmes, this man is a fugitive from the law.
Yeah, is there a picture of me in there? Is it any good? I hope it's my right profile. It's the best.
Oh, wait, what do you think of that? It says here that you allegedly killed a young chorus girl named Sally King last night.
Killed? I'm trying to get rid of her.
I should say that amounts to the same thing. It also said that you were taken into custody by the police.
That's right, yeah, that's what I said. But then, you see, I decided I had to go and see Mr. Holmes. And so, I left.
Huh? You left?
Yes.
Oh, how? Look here, Holmes, this man might be dangerous.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that, Dr. Watson. Easy-going Harry Crocker, that's what they call me. Always a smile and a song when things go wrong. Eh?
It's the police. They surrounded the house.
He's probably after me. I just duck in there for a moment so as not to embarrass you gentlemen.
You already have. We're not in the habit of harboring fugitives.
I wouldn't dream of asking you gentlemen to do anything that was contrary to your conscience. No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, Holmes, you were seen coming in here. You're treading on thin ice, very thin ice.
Oh.
And what have you to say to this?
I don't really know, Inspector. No, it's not my style at all. But if you really want the owner, he's in that...
Thank you, Holmes. I had a bad moment there.
Harboring criminals, obstructing the police in the execution of their duties, giving false statements to the police.
That's remarkable. Truly remarkable. Well, I must say, that fella has the most remarkable flair for disappearing, Watson. Don't you agree?
Well, I'd prefer he'd practice somewhere else.
Inspector, what's the case against Harry Crocker?
He's a murderer. As if you didn't know.
Yes, you inferred as much, didn't you? But what are the facts, my dear fellow?
He's a performer at the Empire Music Hall.
I say, it's a bit early, Holmes. You expecting anybody?
Oh, boy. No, not.
Well, good morning, Mr. Holmes. Oh, am I glad to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry to come barging in on you like this, but I'm in trouble. See, the situation's a bad one. Oh, it's a real stinker. I'm in dead trouble. You be careful how you handle that. That's a brand new tit for. See, now, you'll understand when I explain it to you, see? Now, my name is Addy Croker, and I'm chin-deep in trouble. Right up to there. Oh, if my poor old grandmother could only see me now.
My name is Dr. Watson. This gentleman is Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, you're the only man who can save me. Now, you've got to do something to save me, see? Everything depends on you see? My life, my career, my future, the lot.
Yes, well,
it all depends on you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, but what save you from what, Mr. Crocker? Well, if you can find the time, perhaps you'd like to sit down.
Yeah, thank you. No. Murder, I'm afraid.
What?
There's something accused of murder.
No.
Me! Yeah, and I wouldn't harm the air on a fly's head. Not even on a beaten fly. Yeah, I faint when I see plant. And they go and accuse me of murder. You know, Mr. Holmes, now, look, you're a man of intelligence and capacities and appetites like... See, you're a man of education.
Crocker? Did you say Harry Crocker?
Yes, that's right. Here, perhaps you've seen me perform at the local vaudeville theatre. Escape artist extraordinary. No bolts, chains, or shackles can contain me. Just like it says on the billboards.
Yes, I'm sure.
Mr. Crocker, so where might you be found now?
Well, the girls' dressing room.
Which one?
Oh, they all use the same one. It's the second door on the left, down there. Better knock before you go in.
Oh, we shall, sir, I assure you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willis. Good afternoon. Watson.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be of service to you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Oh, excuse me, madam. I'd like to have a word with Miss Zaza. Is that good?
It can't possibly. She's busy. We have a show to do, you know.
Yes.
Here I come in my gonfalon. La 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 la. Carry on, lad.
Well, hello.
Mr. Holmes, I knew you would let me down. Please, Dr. Watson. It was a real pleasure to see you again.
Yes, but Crocker, the police.
I expect they'll be along soon.
But how did you get away this time?
Gave a twist and a twirl. And while they're looking one way, I grabbed the other. Mr. Holmes, have you cleared me yet?
Well, not quite yet, Harry, but it'd be easier if we could have a word with Miss Zaza. But unfortunately, some old busybody in there won't let us in.
Oh, Bessie?
Yes.
You wait a minute, huh? Come right in, gentlemen. This is a most uncomfortable business, Holmes. Really, I beg your pardon. Gentlemen, this is Miss Zaza, singer extraordinary. Now, Fanny, tell Mr. Holmes everything he wants to know. And don't be shy.
All right, Harry. What would you gentlemen like to know?
Oh, well, we're sorry to inconvenience you, Miss Zaza, but,
That's all right.
I understand it was you who first discovered Miss King's body.
Yes, I did. It was just horrible. 1 minute she was standing here next to me, right where you are now, Mr. Holmes. I could touch her. And the next, oh, it was just horrible.
Yes, of course, it must have been. Then you were here when Miss King came off the stage last night, is that right?
Of course. She came in here very angry and in a very big hurry. She tore up her costume. Oh, excuse me.
Last night he left with one of the chorus girls.
This Miss Sally King.
Yes, that's right. Short time after that, she was found in the alley, dead, strangled.
I see. I'd say you had a pretty slim case, you know.
The stage doorkeeper heard them quarreling on the way out. And a newspaper boy has testified to the fact that Crocker came out of the alley alone. Not so slim now, is it?
I think Lestrade's got the right man this time, Holmes.
And Crocker denied all this?
Not at all. He's admitted the truth of every statement, point by point.
Well, then I don't see what all this...
Here, wait a minute. Here, we had a quarrel, all right. Yes, we quarreled. But I never killed her, so may I drop dead.
Well, where on earth did you come from?
Well, Mr. Crocker, let me be the first to congratulate you. Absolutely inspired. Now, tell me, how did you do it? How did you manage it, eh?
Yes. Oh, simple. See, all you have to learn, Mr. Holmes, is a few basic tricks on my business, and the rest is chicken's feed.
Professor, you're under arrest for murder, Crocker. I won't warn you any more of your tricks, and I'll be the worst for you. I promise you that.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, that girl was only trying to capitalize on my publicity. Of course. Yeah, I gave her a smile maybe once or twice, but you know how these floozes are. But that's all. That's
Here, take him away, and try and keep hold of him this time.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, please, you're going to do, you must do something for me, Mr. Holmes,
We'll do our best,
Oh,
Mr.
God,
Crocker,
yes.
but you better go quietly now. You go quietly, will you?
Quietly?
Yes.
All right. But don't forget, will you?
I shan't.
You won't forget.
No, I
You
shan't.
promise?
Don't worry.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, you won't forget me now, will you? You'll do your best to save me, won't you? Please, promise. Well, I could put old grandmother going to see me now.
I'm warning you officially, Holmes. Don't interfere with this.
That's really remarkable, Watson. Absolutely remarkable. Have you any idea how possibly he could conceal himself in that closet?
Don't push Lestrade too far, Holmes. He's been after your hide for a long time.
Yes. Would you care to accompany me to the music hall tonight, Watson?
Why, are you on the trail of something, Holmes?
Several things. First of all, I should like to know why Harry Crocker killed this woman, if he did. And if he didn't, why should anybody want to make out that he did?
No, I think Lestrade's got the right man this time, Holmes.
Really? Well, we shall see. We shall see.
I say, it's a bit early, Holmes. You expecting anybody?
Oh, boy. No, not.
Well, good morning, Mr. Holmes. God, am I glad to see you. Yeah, I'm sorry to come barging in on you like this, but I'm in trouble. See, the situation's a bad one. Oh, it's a real stinker. I'm in dead trouble. Now, you be careful how you handle that. That's a brand new tit for. See, now, you'll understand when I explain it to you, see? Now, my name is Harry Crocker, and I'm chin-deep in trouble. Right up to there. Oh, if my poor old grandmother could only see me now.
My name is Dr. Watson. This gentleman is Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes, you're the only man who can save me. Now, you've got to do something to save me, see? Everything depends on you see? My life, my career, my future. Look, the law.
Yes, well,
it all depends on you, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, but what save you from what, Mr. Crocker? Well, if you're going to find the time, perhaps you'd like to sit down.
Yeah. Thank you. No. Yeah, murder, I'm afraid.
What?
Yes, I've been accused of murder.
No.
Me! Yeah, and I wouldn't harm the air on a fly's head. Not even on a beaten fly. Yeah, I faint when I see blood. And they go and accuse me of murder. You know, Mr. Holmes, now, look, you're a man of intelligence and capacities and appetites like... See, you're a man of education.
Crocker? Did you say Harry Crocker?
Yes, that's right. Here, perhaps you've seen me perform at the local vaudeville theatre. Escape artist extraordinary. No bolts, chains, or shackles can contain me. Just like it says on the billboards.
Yes, I'm sure.
Mr. Crocker, who is accusing you of murdering what?
Who? Well, the police.
What?
Yeah, they come right in and they say, you're guilty, Harry Crocker. Aye. And then they whisk me away without saying another word. Mark you.
I say, Holmes.
Yes.
This man is a fugitive from the law.
Yeah, is there a picture of me in there? Is it any good? I hope it's my right profile. It's the best. Oh, wait, what do you think of that?
It says here that you allegedly killed a young chorus girl named Sally King last night.
Killed? I'm trying to get rid of her.
I should say that amounts to the same thing. It also said that you were taken into custody by the police.
That's right, yeah, that's what I said. But then, you see, I decided I had to go and see Mr. Holmes. And so, I left.
Huh? You left?
Yes.
Oh, how? Look here, Holmes, this man might be dangerous.
Oh, no. Don't worry about that, Dr. Watson. Easy going Harry Crocker, that's what they call me. Always a smile and a song when things go wrong. Eh?
It's the police. They surrounded the house.
It's probably after me. I just duck in there for a moment so as not to embarrass you gentlemen.
You already have. We're not in the habit of harboring fugitives.
I wouldn't dream of asking you gentlemen to do anything that was contrary to your conscience. No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, Holmes, you were seen coming in here. You're treading on thin ice. Very thin ice. Oh. And what have you to say to this?
I don't really know, Inspector. No, it's not my style at all. But if you really want the owner, he's in that...
Thank you, Holmes. I had a bad moment there.
Harboring criminals, obstructing the police in the execution of their duties, giving false statements to the police.
That's remarkable. Truly remarkable. Well, I must say, that fella has the most remarkable flair for disappearing, Watson. Don't you agree?
Well, I'd prefer he'd practice somewhere else.
Inspector, what's the case against Harry Crocker?
He's a murderer. As if you didn't know.
Yes, you inferred as much, didn't you? But what are the facts, my dear fellow?
He's a performer at the Empire Music Hall. Last night he left with one of the chorus girls.
This Miss Sally King.
Yes, that's right. Short time after that, she was found in the alley, dead, strangled.
I see. I'd say you had a pretty slim case, you know.
The stage doorkeeper heard them quarreling on the way out. And a newspaper boy has testified to the fact that Crocker came out of the alley alone. Not so slim now, is it?
I think the Strait's got the right man this time, Holmes.
And Crocker denied all this?
Not at all. He's admitted the truth of every statement, point by point.
Well, then I don't see what all this...
Here, wait a minute. Here, we had a quarrel, all right. Yes, we quarreled. But I never killed her, so may I drop dead.
Well, where on earth did you come from?
Well, Mr. Crocker, let me be the first to congratulate you. Absolutely inspired. Now, tell me, how did you do it? How did you manage it, eh?
Yes. Oh, simple. See, all you have to learn, Mr. Holmes, is a few basic tricks on my business, and the rest is chicken's feed.
Professor! You're under arrest for murder, Crocker. I warn you any more of your tricks and I'll be the worse for you. I promise you that.
Yeah, Mr. Holmes. That girl was only trying to capitalize on my publicity. Of course. Yeah, I gave her a smile maybe once or twice, but you know how these flues are. But that's all. That's it.
Yeah, take him away and try and keep hold of him this time.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, please. You must do something for me, Mr. Holmes.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best for you, Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
But you better go quietly now. You go quietly.
Hey, quietly?
Yes.
All right. But don't forget, will you?
I shall.
You won't forget.
No, I
promise.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Hey, Mr. Holmes, you won't forget me now, will you? You'll do your best to save me, won't you? Please, promise. Well, I could put old grandmother going to see me now. Hey.
I'm warning you officially, Holmes. Don't interfere with this.
That's really remarkable, Watson. Absolutely remarkable. Have you any idea how possibly he could conceal himself in that closet?
Don't push Lestrade too far, Holmes. He's been after your hide for a long time.
Yes. Would you care to accompany me to the music hall tonight, Watson?
Why, are you on the trail of something, Holmes?
Several things. First of all, I should like to know why Harry Crocker killed this woman, if he did. And if he didn't, why should anybody want to make out that he did?
No, I think Lestrade's got the right man this time, Holmes.
You really? Well, we shall see. We shall see.
Holmes? Later that afternoon, Holmes and I went along to the Empire Music Hall. Not to be entertained, mind you, though I dare say the day gave promise of that. We stopped for a moment to chat with the news vendor who repeated the story he had told Inspector Lestrade. He had been standing on that very spot the previous evening when Harry Crocker passed him coming from the stage door exit. Crocker had definitely been alone, and what's more, he'd been in a temper. I must say Holmes did little to break down the fellow's story.
My name is Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, yes, indeed. I've heard of you, Mr. Holmes. My name's Charlie Willis. I suppose you've come about Sir Harry Crocker's trouble.
Yes, I have. Tell me, is there any other exit from backstage to that alley out there?
Oh, none, sir. The only other way out is round through the front of the house.
Then anyone going from this area to that alley would have to pass your desk on the way.
Yes.
I presume you remain on duty throughout all performances?
Well, I know what you're getting at, sir. But like I told the police, as soon as Harry walked out, this girl came chasing after him. Ooh, buzzing like a hornet she was.
And where did you see her next?
Oh, not until Miss Zaza came screaming back through that door. I ran out and found the girl lying there, dead.
Then I understand that neither Mr. Crocker nor Miss King returned through that door last night after you saw them leave.
Well, I'm afraid that's it, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Holmes, I'm afraid Inspector Lestrade has got his foolproof case.
Granted, of course, that the inspector himself is foolproof. Miss Zaza, where might she be found now?
Oh, the girl's dressing room.
Which one?
Oh, they all use the same one. It's the second door on the left, down there. Better knock before you go in.
Oh, we shall, sir, I assure you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Willis. Good afternoon. Watson.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be of service to you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Oh, excuse me, madam. I'd like to have a word with Miss Zaza. Is that good?
It can't possibly. She's busy. We have a show to do, you know.
Yes.
Here I come in my gonfalon. La 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 Carry on, lad.
Well, hello.
Mr. Holmes, I knew you would let me down. Even Dr. Watson, it was a real pleasure to see you again.
Yes, but Crocker, the police.
I expect they'll be along soon.
But how did you get away this time?
Gave me a twist and a twirl. Am I looking one way? I go up the other. Mr. Holmes, have you cleared me yet?
Well, not quite.
am the resurrection and the life, saith the Lord. He that believeth in me, although he were dead, shall live. And he that liveth and believeth shall not die. Unto Almighty God we commend his body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, in sure and certain hope that at the resurrection he will rise again to everlasting life. Amen.
Well, that completes the formal contents of Sir Charles's will. May I be the first to congratulate you, Sir George, as the new heir to Farnsworth Castle?
A mass of crumbling stone and a morbid legend.
Oh, plus an estate with a handsome revenue.
All our legacies were most liberal, Mr. Clarkson. My brother was a generous man.
He was a bully and a bragger.
George, please. Charles is dead now.
He treated you more like one of his hounds than his ward, Sylvia, and you know it.
Henry, you can now do what you've always dreamed of doing. Buy your own medical practice.
£2,000. I'm overwhelmed. I suppose that finishes the will, Clarkson?
Well, not quite, Sir George. Your cousin Charles added a most unusual codicil. Having made many enemies in my life, and suspecting that any one of them may be tempted to bring my earthly days to an abrupt end, I hereby direct, no matter how I die, that Sherlock Holmes be engaged to investigate the circumstances of my death.
Sherlock Holmes?
The detective. But it's absurd. Charles died from a heart attack.
You signed the death certificate yourself, Reeves. I won't allow Holmes to investigate.
I'm afraid Mr. Holmes has already commenced his investigation. A court order was issued this morning.
A court order for what?
The exhumation of Sir Charles's body. The autopsy has been completed. Sir Charles died from arsenic poisoning.
Elizabeth. It's incredible. Who could have done it? Arsenic.
Only one of us. You or I or Henry or Sylvia.
Oh, no. Not Sylvia, no. She had no reason.
She had the same reason we all had. Charles' death set her free just as it set the rest of us free.
Are Holmes and Lestrade still up in the tower room?
Yes, and Dr. Watson is there too.
Why is Holmes so interested in the tower room?
Because Charles died there, I suppose. Or perhaps Mr. Holmes is interested in the legend.
That ridiculous, gruesome legend.
Murder's what I believe in, Holmes, not legends.
Well, you know, Lestrade, legends are sometimes put to surprisingly modern uses. By the way, what is the legend, Holmes? Well, it dates back to the Wars of the Roses. A sentry fell asleep here one night while on watch. As a result, they chopped his head off. Ever since that time, anyone who sleeps here is supposed to die. Nonsense. Quite. And yet Sir Charles slept here, and he did die.
It's a coincidence. He'd already taken the poison. He had to die somewhere.
You know, that window is much too narrow for anyone to get in or out. With that door locked, this place becomes a classic sealed room.
It was arsenic that killed him, Holmes, not the room.
Or the legend.
Or the legend. Dr. Watson, you read the autopsy report. What's your opinion?
Well, there is one thing that struck me as odd. This is January.
Mm-hmm.
Yet Sir Charles had eaten grapes the night he was poisoned.
Well, what's that got to do with it?
Well, you don't very often find grapes in January. Not in England, anyway.
Clever, Watson.
Grapes in January, eh?
Yeah.
Arsenic. Out of this jar. And someone in this room gave it to him. Each of you gained from his death.
We all had access to that jar, Inspector. The arsenic was used for garden spraying.
Anyway, Charles didn't eat or drink a single thing that night. The rest of us didn't.
Then why weren't all of you poisoned too?
Miss Farnsworth, what prompted your brother to sleep in the tower room the night he died?
I prompted him, Mr. Holmes. I challenged him to.
Oh, really? Why?
To put his constant bragging to the test. It started at dinner that night.
Elizabeth, your meals are getting progressively more inedible. If you can't do better, I suggest you find your own home and run it.
I'll try to do better, Charles.
Elizabeth, I liked your dinner.
What do you know about decent food? What do you know about anything?
I know how to run your estate for you.
And a mess you're making of it, too. With half the tenants overdue in their rents.
I won't sweat a man's rent out of him, Charles.
You'll get the rest of the rents by tomorrow, or out you go. Bag and baggage. What have you got to say to that?
I'll collect the rents by noon tomorrow.
Why must you always humiliate us, Charles? Have you no decency, no human feelings?
I'm not a weak knee like George here, if that's what you mean.
Courage isn't always physical, Charles.
Courage? You remember the time I locked you in the tower room? You screamed like a stuck pig.
I was 7 years old, not a big, brave man like you.
What do you mean by that?
You dared lock a little boy in that room, but you never dared spend a night in it yourself.
You think I believe that stupid legend?
Yes, and fear it. Just as you fear anything you cannot hear or see or touch. You locked me in to frighten me, because you yourself would have been frightened.
Elizabeth, get me a candle. I'm spending the night in the tower room. But Charles, you mustn't. You're hard. If you were frightened... Don't talk like an idiot, Reeves. Frightened of what? An old wives' tale?
I will fetch him a candle.
I had to break open the tower room next morning. I found him dead.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
What kind of grapes were served at dinner that night?
Grapes? No grapes were served. We haven't had grapes in the house for months.
Then who gave Sir Charles the grapes he ate that night? Because he did eat grapes. That's how he was poisoned.
No one gave my brother grapes, Inspector.
You're wrong. The murderer did.
Lestrade, the grapes won't solve your case, you know. The solution lies in the tower room.
Now, look here, Holmes. We've already gone into all that, and
I'm going to find it.
How can you do that, Holmes?
By spending the night in the tower room myself.
Mr. Holmes, I think you are wrong to take the legend of Farnsworth Castle so lightly.
On the contrary, Miss Farnsworth, I'm taking it very seriously.
Then be on guard, Mr. Holmes, and stay awake.
Holmes, how can you possibly solve the mystery here?
Quite simply, Watson. The murderer is going to try and kill me.
Why?
Because I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Can I stay with you?
No, thanks all the same, my boy.
Holmes, if anything happens, you will shout, won't you?
Yes, yes. Loud and strong.
Holmes? Holmes!
Poison. Watson, I'll get you back to my room.
Arsenic. Watson, quickly, the antidote.
Arsenic?
Very cunning, Watson. Yes, maybe, Holmes, but I don't understand. After all, you and I ate the same thing the entire evening.
Watson, I think I know the killer's secret.
Perhaps I'd better go out and wake Holmes.
It is getting rather late. Not that I believe in any of this superstitious nonsense, mind you, but...
But you do believe in murder, eh, Dr. Reeves?
Holmes!
Well, it seems that everyone is surprised at my appearance this morning.
Perhaps relieved is a better word, Mr. Holmes.
I dare say there's somebody who's not very relieved.
What are you talking about?
I was poisoned last night. I am alive this morning, thanks to a bit of good luck and some ingenious foresight on the part of Dr. Watson. On the afternoon that Dr. Watson learned the true cause of Sir Charles's death, he ordered the ingredients of an arsenic antidote from the local chemist. I wonder who, sitting at this table now, is cursing that foresight.
Do we have to be afraid of every bite we put into our mouths?
Not every bite, Sir George. Only food with a flavor strong enough to conceal the taste of arsenic.
Something like grapes, for example. And if you want to know who poisoned the grapes, I can tell you that too. The person who bought the grapes in a London fruit shop on the day Sir Charles died.
I rather imagined you'd trace those grapes, Lestrade. Who did, in fact, buy them?
Miss Sylvia Taylor.
You're lying.
Let her answer that, Sir George.
Yes. I bought them.
Sylvia.
And gave them to Sir Charles when he was in the tower room.
Yes. But I didn't poison them. I swear I didn't.
For some reason which he did not yet explain, Holmes doubted Lestrade's case against Sylvia Taylor. Furthermore, he reasoned that the killer would take refuge in her arrest, letting the case end there and accepting his own safety. He revealed to me that our only hope was to force the killer into making another move in spite of himself. The first step was publicly to denounce Lestrade's case in such a way that the inspector himself would be convinced that he needed more evidence. This, Holmes hoped, would frighten the killer.
More evidence? You could spend a lifetime going over this place with your magnifying glass.
And I wouldn't even attempt it. But a whole battery of men could accomplish it in a very short time indeed.
Now look here.
A whole battery of men?
Lestrade, how soon do you think you'll get up here sufficient men from Scotland Yard to carry out a systematic and thorough search?
Tonight, maybe. Certainly by tomorrow morning.
Just a moment here. This is my home.
And Lestrade, I think Sir George is going to be rather anxious that they come armed with a search warrant.
I'll get in touch with the Yard immediately.
Watson, you're sure no one's left the house?
Bobby on the door said nobody had gone in or out all day.
Well, I hope we haven't been outwitted on this.
It's been a very tiring time, Holmes, watching every move that's being made and getting nowhere.
Yes, we can't afford to let up now, Watson. The pressure's really on him, you know. He's got fear to contend with.
Oh, Holmes, why do you keep crossing to that window? You know, I think it's your pacing up and down all day that's made me more nervous than anything else.
There it is, Watson.
What?
Quickly, Watson, the tower room.
Coming, Holmes.
Watson, would you go downstairs immediately and tell Lestrade to bring our 4 friends up here?
What are you up to?
As I had hoped, the killer has left us all the necessary components of a trap. Well, you better hurry, Watson. We have little time to lose.
Right.
Won't you sit down here?
Just what's the point of this seance exactly, Holmes?
We're going to find a murderer, Lestrade.
Yes, but why here? Perhaps the legend's going to tell us.
Yes, Lestrade. The legend. The weird tale of a headless sentry. And a most convenient one for the murderer, who didn't anticipate an autopsy. Yet why did he choose this room to murder in? What is the mysterious connection between the tower room and death?
Please stop. I don't want to stay here any longer.
I'm sorry, Miss Taylor, but we must stay here and wait. Perhaps all night. Who knows?
But this is insane.
I don't feel very well. Could we open the window?
I'll open it for you, Elizabeth. It is getting rather stuffy in here.
Don't bother, Dr. Reeves. I've already tried to open it myself. It's quite impossible.
My head is spinning.
You've got to open the window. I feel faint. Please open the window.
I've already told you, Miss Farnsworth. It's quite impossible.
I don't believe you. Reeves, make him open the window.
Elizabeth, calm yourself. It's just this eerie room that's getting on your nerves.
That confounded wind. It's enough to send you out of your mind. Mr. Holmes, can't we settle this downstairs?
Please try to be calm, all of you. As I said before, we may have quite a long wait here.
Let me out of here.
Elizabeth!
Open the window. Do something.
Stop it! Isn't it bad enough without you going off?
You fools. You fools, you don't understand. We've got to have air. For heaven's sake, open the window. Let me go. Let me go. It will kill us all.
It really wasn't necessary to smash the window, Miss Farnsworth. Oh, Watson, there's a package in that drawer behind you. Bring it to me, will you?
Yes, of course.
You see, Miss Farnsworth, I took the precaution of replacing your arsenic candles with harmless ones. Of course, you couldn't be aware of that, could you?
Arsenic candles?
Yes, Lestrade. Like the one that killed Sir Charles.
But Sir Charles died of poisoned grapes.
Oh, no, Lestrade. It was a far more ingenious method of killing than that. A small room, a tiny window, and a candle impregnated with arsenic and giving off fatal fumes.
Ingenious, yes. And it's practical. You can inhale arsenic as a gas.
Follow it, officer.
You see, Lestrade, the person who placed those candles there wasn't going to sit through the night and wait for death. She had to give herself away. I'm sorry to have upset all of you, but quite frankly, I didn't know which one of you it was.
But Holmes, why did she choose this room to destroy the candles?
Because this was the only room in the castle that she could be sure would be deserted that night. The legend, you see.
Yes, Father. I've been thinking a great deal, and I've decided on my last request.
Yes, what is it, my son?
I want to see Mr. Holmes.
Who?
Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the detective. If there's any chance to prove my innocence, he's the one who can do it. You've got to bring him to me, Father.
Very well, Edwin. If the man can be found, I'll have him brought here. Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
I want you to assist me in a rather unusual experiment.
Experiment? What kind of an experiment?
I want you to stand by while I drink this. Oh, and you'll need your stethoscope.
What? I say, Holmes, is it lethal?
Of course not. You don't think I take a chance like that, do you? Are you ready?
Oh, thank goodness, whoever you are.
Oh, dear.
Come in, Lestrade, come in. Delighted to see you.
Well, this is a warm welcome.
Well, now, sit yourself down, make yourself at home.
No, I won't, thank you very much.
Tell me, social call?
No, not exactly.
Oh, what's the trouble, Lestrade?
Do you remember the Phyllis Brighton murder?
Oh, yes, of course. Brighton. She was stabbed, wasn't she?
That's right, by her husband, Edward Brighton. About an hour ago, he made known his last request. Rather an unusual one.
Oh, what was it?
You.
Me?
Why? Well, no explanation. Simply wanted to see Sherlock Holmes. And you know, Holmes, wherever it's humanly possible, we try to fulfill these last requests of condemned men.
Naturally. And I take it that his execution is imminent, then, Lestrade?
Yes, at dawn. He has about 7 hours to live.
Come on, then, Watson. We have little time to lose. If a man calls for me in his final hours, it may mean that we, too, shall be called upon to fulfill a final request. And 7 hours is little enough time when a gallows is at the end.
Holmes. I was lying here on my cot, and suddenly I remembered something that happened the night of the murder. It had entirely escaped my memory until now.
What was that recollection, Mr. Brighton?
I'm afraid it won't make sense to you until you understand some of the other facts in the case.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, please go on.
It was a Sunday afternoon, last April, when I first met Phyllis. We hit it off together immediately, and 3 weeks later we were married. She was very beautiful, Mr. Holmes. Blonde hair, perfect nose, delicate little mouth.
And her background? Her family?
We never spoke about that. Phyllis made me agree not to inquire into her past, nor she into mine. I knew it was an unusual request, but I consented readily. Mr. Holmes, I'd been just a bank clerk and very lonely. I didn't want to lose my one chance at happiness.
Of course. Tell me, what was Mrs. Brighton's maiden name?
LeVay, Phyllis LeVay. But she told me her friends called her Bobo. Bobo. I thought that awfully charming. Mr. Holmes, I wouldn't kill her. I bought her a little home in Benedict Lane. I insured my life for £2,000 so that she'd be well protected in case I should die. I gave her everything she wanted.
Every moment counts, Mr. Brighton. Now, you must tell me what happened the night of your wife's death.
Oh, yes. That night we had our first argument. It was over a very trivial matter. Forgive me, dear, for saying so, but don't you think it's just a little too much?
What's a little too much?
You know,
As a matter of fact, I think it's too little.
Now, really, Phyllis, it doesn't improve your appearance. It makes you look,
cheap?
I didn't say that. I merely said...
You're afraid I'm going to shock the Kimballs, and I simply won't go.
You know very well the Kimballs are expecting us. There's no need to carry on like this.
I'm not carrying on, Edward. You're the one.
I think I'd better take a breath of air before I say something unkind.
Suit yourself. You're really a sweetie, Edward. But sometimes you're just so stuffy.
That was the extent of it, Mr. Holmes. It was just a mild little row. But at the trial, the neighbors testified we had a violent argument that night. To this moment, I can't understand why they should say such a thing.
After you left your wife, what did you do?
I merely walked. I don't know exactly where. I just walked. After a while, I began to think of some way to apologize to Phyllis. I didn't want to make her unhappy, even over the smallest thing. I must have traveled a good long distance, when suddenly I began to feel ill.
Ill?
Yes, I'd contracted malaria as a young man in South Africa. I knew I was in for another one of my seizures. Dr. Watson, you know what malaria does to a man?
Oh, yes, indeed. High fever, sweats, chills, and sudden fainting spells.
That's it. With the first chills, I instinctively turned back towards the house. I had medicine there that would lessen the effect of the attack. I wasn't aware of the street or anything around me. Each step I took became a struggle. I barely made it to my home. I stumbled onto the front steps, and there it was, on the ground. I knew it didn't belong to me, but instinctively I reached for it. And that's all I remember. When I came to, the house was swarming with police, and Phyllis was dead.
This object you saw on the ground, what was it?
That's the maddening part. I don't remember. I'm only positive there was something, and it didn't belong to me.
But, Mr. Brighton, have you any recollection of its general shape, size, or color?
No, sir. Nothing beyond what I've told you.
This has been most illuminating. Good night, Mr. Brighton. Come, Watson.
I realize I haven't given you very much to go on, Mr. Holmes. Perhaps not even the slender thread you require. But a man will pray for a miracle when he's only a few hours remaining on this earth.
Holmes, come in. What did Brighton want?
Lestrade, may I see the items that you took from Edward Brighton's pockets when he was arrested? No, I said, may I see?
Oh, very well. Wilkins, bring over Brighton's effects, will you?
Well, I don't want to seem pessimistic, Holmes, but you think this poor chap's got a chance?
No, I'm afraid all the evidence proved conclusively that he had a violent quarrel with his wife, then murdered her in a fit of rage. These mild-mannered clerks are always the ones. Oh, thank you, Wilkins. There you are, Holmes. There's nothing unusual in there. Keys, handkerchief, wallet, and so forth.
Yes, just as Lestrade says, nothing there but common or garden personal effects, Holmes. Well, I, for one, wonder where we go from here.
We go to 14 Hanover Place, Watson.
Beg your pardon? What are we going there for?
That's the address of the tobacconist who prepared this mixture.
Yes, I can see that's the address, but I still don't understand.
Quite obvious, Watson. Brighton in his cell was smoking the inexpensive, ordinary sea shanty brand of tobacco. Well, that's a specially prepared blend, only made for the well-to-do connoisseur. You'll note the burley base, a touch of latakia, and a certain amount of yenijay leaf.
Extraordinary olfactory perception, Holmes.
But what has the man's smoking habits to do with the case?
Perhaps everything, Lestrade. It's my guess that Phyllis Brighton had a visitor that evening, while Edward Brighton was roaming the streets. And this is the something that he picked up on his return. The something that he couldn't recall. Come, Watson. The scent of this tobacco may very well lead us to the real murderer. And we have little time to lose. Good night, Inspector.
The package of tobacco was a thin thread to follow, and it seemed a desperate chance for Holmes to take. With only a few hours standing between Brighton and death, there was no time for false leads that would have to be abandoned. A mistake now could mean disaster.
Tomorrow will be too late. We must see you now.
What about?
Murder.
Murder?
Murder.
Oh, well, I could do with a good cigar. Yeah, I don't believe we'd have time for that, Watson. You choose a cigar like another man chooses a wife.
Oh, I say, really, Holmes.
Murder?
Yes. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is Dr. Watson. May we come in, please?
Oh, it's Mr. Holmes. Indeed, do come in.
Come in. Thank you.
My shop is at your disposal.
Mr. Carruthers, a man's life is at stake. The information you may give us may very well save him from the gallows. I'd like to have a look at your client's ledger with the names and addresses of all those who smoke this blend of tobacco.
Why, certainly, Mr. Holmes. It's my own special mixture, you know. Not many of my clients have the discernment or the cash to smoke it. I hope this will be some help to you.
But I say, Holmes, there's at least 50 names on that list. It'll take days to check through all of them, and time's getting desperately short.
Aha. Mr. Langsley Priam, 8 Groveley Square.
Langsley Priam? Who's he?
I haven't the slightest idea, but we must get to him immediately, Watson.
But now, why Langsley Priam amongst all those names?
Because 8 Groveley Square is in the dock section of the city, and all the other addresses in the ledger were in the more fashionable neighborhoods. Doesn't that strike you as unusual?
Yes, it does, now you've come to mention it.
Whereas you may recall, Watson, that the late Mrs. Brighton didn't wish to reveal her background. I think we may therefore assume that it was of a somewhat questionable nature.
Yes, true.
And 8 Groveley Square is in a questionable neighborhood. Well, these are slight leads, I grant you, Watson. But we haven't the leisure at our disposal for more thorough investigation. Our one critical factor now is time. Thank you very much, Mr. Carruthers, for your assistance, and good night.
Good night. Murder.
$10 6 more hours.
Inspector Lestrade, do you really think Mr. Holmes will discover anything?
If there's anything to be discovered, he's the man to do it.
I wonder where he is now.
It seems impossible. All I could give him were a few hours of vague memory.
This was Mr. Priam's room, Mr. Holmes. He left me 2 weeks ago. And him owing me back rent, that scoundrel.
Did he leave you in a forwarding address, Mrs. Chivy?
Ooh, not him. He just left a note saying he was gone and got a job, that's all.
Tell me, Mrs. Chivy, what sort of a man was he? I mean, what did he look like?
Well, he was tall and kind of handsome, you might say. Then again, you might not. What do you want him for? He's not in some kind of trouble, is he?
Not necessarily.
You're not here to give him the £2,000.
£2,000?
He was always talking about how he was going to get his hands on £2,000. And him owing me rent.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chivy. You've been most kind.
Yeah, but when you see him, you tell him I sent my money. From now on, all rent in advance.
Well, Watson, that's one more link in a strange chain of events. Tell me, what's the time now?
Must be after 10.
Ah, then we just have time to get to the theatre.
The theatre?
Yes, we don't want to miss the last act.
Now, look here, Holmes, you can't do a thing like that. I mean, the theatre at a time like this. Really, Holmes, your desire for entertainment is most callous.
What do you make of this?
It's hair. And just the same, I can't see how you can go on sitting there reading the paper with apparent indifference to the matter in hand.
It's not ordinary hair, Watson. It's crepe hair, used to make false beards and moustaches.
Oh, nonsense. I mean, if a man wants a moustache, he can grow one like anybody else.
Well, Watson, actors often have need of simulated beards and moustaches.
Actors?
Yes.
Do you mean it's an actor we're after?
I'd wager so, inasmuch as I discovered that in Mr. Priam's dressing table drawer.
I see. But even then, Holmes, how are we going to find out what theatre he's performing in? I mean, there must be at least 24 plays being presented in London this evening alone.
That is precisely my reason for reading the theatrical page of the newspaper. And I noticed that only one play opened at the same time our Mr. Priam suddenly departed from Mrs. Chivy's lodging house. I hope you like Shakespeare, Watson.
Nobody goes backstage. Those are my orders. But my good man.
If you're from the costumes company, you can't touch a thing till after the show. Mr. Pettifoot says he'll be able to pay by the end of the week.
I am not here for the costumes. I'm here on a very much more important matter, one in which every moment counts.
Mr. Pettifoot says?
See here. This gentleman here was Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, the detective?
Yes. Checkmate.
Mr. Holmes, the final death scene is just starting. I can't ring down the curtain until it's all over. And how do you know that Mr. Priam is the man that you are looking for? No, I'm very sorry. You'll just have to wait until the end of the play. The show must go on.
My dear sir, a man's life is at stake. With all due respect to the bard, I may be forced to tread the boards myself.
Holmes? Holmes, where are you? Oh. I nearly broke my blasted neck finding you.
Watson, this is Mr. Pettifoot.
Pettifoot?
What?
Foot. You know. Foot.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Mr. Pettifoot, my friend and associate, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Mr. Pettifoot refuses to lower the curtain, Watson.
Absolutely. The tradition of the theatre does not permit it. Now, I must ask you gentlemen to leave. Leave. Oh, please, leave.
Oh, very well. Come on, Watson.
It is the cause. It is the cause, my soul. Let me not name it to you, you chaste stars. It is the cause. Yet I'll not shed her blood, nor scar that whitest skin of hers than snow, and smooth as monumental alabaster. Yet she must die, else she betray more men. Put out the light, and then put out the light. If I quench thee, they flaming minister, I can again their former light restore. Should I repent me, but once put out the light. Thou cunning's pattern of excelling nature, I know not where is thy Promethean heat, but can thy life illume? When I have plucked the rose, I cannot give it vital growth again. It needs must wither. I'll smell it on the tree. Oh, balmy breath that dost almost persuade justice to break her sword. One more! One more! Be thus when thou art dead, and I will kill thee.
What have you done? What have you done?
Oh, quick, take us to Priam's dressing room.
Oh, all right, I don't care what happens anymore. I'll be ruined. I'll be the laughing stock of the theatre. Detectives in Shakespeare.
Strike when it doth love. She wakes. Yeah.
Well, the final thread is woven, Watson. Or should I say, rather, that every hair is at last in place.
The two match.
Perfectly.
What is going on? What are you two madmen doing?
Mr. Pettifoot, you can be of assistance to us in a drama even more important than the performance on your stage. In fact, you can help us to save a man's life.
I can?
You can indeed. Now listen very closely. When Mr. Priam comes in here...
What time's it now, Inspector?
11:20.
It's odd. Each minute's like an hour, but each hour's like a minute.
There's still time.
No. I'm afraid it's too late.
Telephone call for you, Inspector Lestrade. Very important, sir.
Oh, thank you, officer.
I say, Holmes, he'll be here in a minute. Do you want me to hide behind the door and jump him as he comes in?
No, you needn't do that, Watson. Just sit there and do nothing, whatever happens.
Right.
He's coming.
You! How dare you? You ruined my scene!
That, I believe, will only be the least of it.
Well, who are you and what do you want?
In answer to your first question, my name is Sherlock Holmes. In answer to your second, I want you for the murder of Phyllis Brighton.
Murder? Phyllis Brighton?
Better known in theatrical circles as Bobo LeVay.
Get out of my dressing room.
Your acting stands you in good stead, Mr. Priam. You almost convinced me of your innocence. However, acting and life are two quite different things. Tonight, on the stage, you murdered the girl Desdemona in make-believe. A month ago, you murdered a woman in a more sordid drama.
You may as well continue this farce. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. I shall try to be brief. You and your ex-partner planned what seemed to be a simple but clever scheme. She would marry some poor, unsuspecting soul, and you would murder him. And then the pair of you would share the insurance policy.
Ridiculous.
And it might have worked, but for one thing. Phyllis fell in love with Edward Brighton.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any Phyllis or any Brighton.
Then perhaps, Mr. Priam, you are familiar with Romeo's lines. How oft, when men are at the point of death, have they been merry?
Get out of here! I've heard enough!
Not quite enough, Priam. It was you who had the vicious argument with Phyllis Brighton when she refused to continue with your scheme. And it was you who, in a fit of jealous rage, stabbed her to death.
And so shall you die!
Holmes!
Let me go! Let me go!
I came here as soon as I got your telephone message, Holmes. What's going on here and who's he?
No time to explain now, Lestrade. I want you to arrest this man and order a stay of execution for Brighton. I'll be able to prove conclusively in the morning that Brighton is innocent and this man is guilty.
All right, Holmes, I'll take your word for it. You'd better come along with me.
Oh, I must admit, Holmes, I've been far too shaken to think clearly, but just the same, I can't believe it. I mean, with my very eyes, I saw him stab you with that dagger. Holmes, what on earth?
Watson, if actors were allowed to use real weapons on the stage, the mortality rate would be something fantastic. Observe how the blade disappears into the handle.
Holmes.
What in heaven's name did you hit her for? How many times do I have to tell you I didn't strike her? I never harmed her.
She has a broken arm, hasn't she?
Maybe so, but it has nothing to do with me.
You're finished. You know that.
I am not finished. Confound it, man. My whole career is thrown into this election.
Well, what do you propose to do? Pay her the money she asks?
£2,000. Don't be ridiculous.
Now listen to me, Geoffrey. The
party's depending on your seat in the Commons. If that woman makes a public statement that you attacked her and broke her arm, you'll be lucky if you get one vote.
And it makes no difference that I happen to be innocent.
Not a whit. In your position, an accusation is just as damaging as a conviction. You've got to withdraw.
No.
Very well. I'll do it for you.
I'm going to fight for my very life. I know someone who might help me, even if you won't.
You've got 3 days to clear this matter up or get out. On Sunday evening, I'm going to make a statement, one way or the other.
I thought you were my campaign manager, not my accuser.
3 days, remember! Marriage bureau. Idiot.
So I went to a marriage bureau. She seemed a very charming sort of woman, cultured and good background and all that.
Yes, but a marriage bureau?
Yes, I've lived in the country for a long time now. I just never seem to meet any woman except the most ineligible and unattractive ones. I've been lonely these past few years since my wife died. This bureau seemed reasonable enough. After all, they promised to introduce you to ladies of cultural and intellectual backgrounds similar to your own.
But they didn't mention blackmail.
£2,000, you say?
An impossible sum. Even if I were guilty, which I'm not. My whole career is at stake, Mr. Holmes.
I think it might be a good idea to have a look into this marriage bureau. Don't you agree, Watson?
Yes, I'd say so.
I simply can't believe Mr. Oliver, he's the proprietor, could be involved in this.
And you say you have 3 days to pay or disprove the accusation, eh?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. It's not very long, I know.
It isn't getting any longer. I suggest that Dr. Watson and I start our investigations immediately.
Coward. Oh, no, Holmes, there must be another way of doing this business.
We're working against time. This is the only way we can get to the core of the case.
Now listen, Holmes. Now, listen. You go on in, and I'll just wait here. And you see, but I'll be here if you need me.
You're absolutely no use to me at all out here.
Come on. Oh, come on. Come on, Watson. Come on.
Good afternoon, Constable. Beautiful weather we're having, eh?
Now, I'm afraid I shall have to put the same questions to you that I put to your friend. I realize they're rather personal, but it's the only way we can be certain that all clients are protected and properly matched.
Yes, right. I can understand that.
Now, about your financial situation. Well, this is all routine, you understand.
Yes, I suppose it is. My personal income is in the vicinity of £3,000 a year.
Well, that seems quite ample.
That's quite apart from Aunt Agatha.
Aunt Agatha?
Yeah. She's worth thousands of pounds. Hundreds of thousands.
And you're the heir?
Next in line. A favorite, too. Well, I have been since I was...
You're very fortunate.
A very odd coincidence has occurred today. The very first time it's happened that I can remember. But there are two charming ladies here at this very moment who seem to fit perfectly with both your backgrounds. I think we could have our first introduction immediately. Is anything the matter?
No. I was just admiring your Toulouse-Lautrec.
My what?
Your Lautrec. It's very interesting. The painting.
Oh, the painting? Oh, of course. Well, if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'll see if the young ladies are still here.
I say, Holmes, what was all that whispering about?
My financial position.
But that confounded busybody asked me the same questions. I answered them straight out.
No, but you gave them real information. They'll never try and blackmail you, old boy.
Well, gentlemen, everything's worked out perfectly. The ladies are waiting in the salon where we generally introduce our couples and let them have a get acquainted chat. My secretary is there with them, and she will introduce you. The door at the far end of the hall.
Thank you. Well, Watson, come on. What are you waiting for? Go on, go on. Door at the other end. No, no, no. Straight on. Straight on.
Mr. Holmes. I'm always interested in the welfare and the situation of my clients, and...
Yes?
How old is Aunt Agatha?
94. Tell me, Miss...
Pamela.
Pamela. Oh, that's a charming name, perfectly charming. Now, tell me, Pamela, do you prefer living in the country or do you like living in London, huh?
Oh, I like living in the country best.
Do you really? Well, so do I, as a matter of fact. I love the country. The thing I like most about the country, I think, is the early morning ride.
Really?
Yes. Do you ride?
No.
Oh, pity. Not really. You've never really been to Paris?
No.
Oh, you'd adore Paris. My Aunt Agatha always went in September, you know. She said it was quite sinful not to go to Paris at all, without going in the spring. That's very funny. Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope I haven't shocked you.
Oh, no, of course not.
Oh, good. And Sir Charles was furious, of course. Well, he hates to lose a wager.
But did he pay you the £500?
Oh, of course, on the spot. Why wouldn't he?
Why don't you say something?
You have very pretty eyes.
Oh, you're a romantic one.
Oh.
Well, has everyone become acquainted?
Oh, we've had ever such a lovely chat, Mr. Oliver.
Splendid. It's nearly time for us to close the bureau, so I must ask you to leave in a few moments. But first, in accordance with our policy, I want to encourage all of you to know each other. Might I, for instance, suggest that all of you have tea together tomorrow, and then perhaps go to the theatre? That is, of course, if it suits everyone's convenience.
Oh, that would be lovely. Oh, yes, let's.
Oh, yes, perfectly delightful. Excellent. Well, I will allow you some minutes to make your preparations, and then I'm afraid we must close the office.
Well, I've seen it through, Holmes. What do you make of it all?
Nothing I didn't expect to. We were merely planting seeds, Watson.
Planting seeds?
Yes, it's my theory that if Oliver and the others are blackmailing, they're choosing their victims pretty carefully. However, I hope that at tea time tomorrow we'll be able to obtain more evidence in support of my theory. The trouble is that our client can't wait very much longer.
You were telling me about your musical background, Mr. Holmes. I'm afraid I interrupted you.
Well, there isn't very much to tell, really. I've spent a considerable fortune on my musical education.
But what instrument was it you said you played?
The violin, my dear. The violin. At times, rather brilliantly, I've been told.
Oh, dear, do be careful.
Followed you this time.
Oh, Charlie. Oh, no, Charlie.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, no, don't. Stay out of it. Don't. Oh.
Wait a minute. So, you're the one.
Oh, Charlie. What have you done to him?
The police. Somebody get the police.
He's my husband. This man, this one here.
I saw what he did, ma'am. You better not try any more tricks, mister. The police will soon settle you.
But this is outrageous. You don't understand.
But it's true. They're married. And he was trying to break them up.
I know he is tight. In here, Constable. There's your man.
Holmes, why don't you say something? You can't let a thing like this happen to you.
We've fallen very neatly into their trap. Don't you agree, Watson?
Well, everyone seems quite thoroughly in agreement, except, of course, your friend here. These other witnesses are in full accord, and the testimony of the proprietress of the tea shop supports them.
But, Inspector, this is absolutely outrageous. Where's Inspector Lestrade? He'll speak for Mr. Holmes.
Inspector Lestrade? I'm sorry, it isn't Inspector Lestrade's case. Well, I think we have everything we need now. We all go. Except, of course, Mr. Holmes. He's under arrest.
All my life I've waited for something like this. Assault and battery. You should stick to your magnifying glass.
Oh, hello, Lestrade. By Jove, I'm glad you're here.
Oh, I was just seeing our more dangerous criminals were properly guarded.
You were right, Holmes. Oliver called on me and told me that for £4,000 this case would be quietly dropped. Why, he's insane.
He's not insane, wasn't he? Just greedy.
No, he's insane. He kept on saying that he was sure Aunt Agatha would fix it.
Aunt Agatha? £4,000? What are you talking about?
Well, I'm not sure myself.
Well, listen, Watson, now that we know where to look, we can take them quickly. Only you've got to let me out of here, Lestrade.
Why, what's the matter, Holmes? This is one of our more comfortable jails.
Listen, Lestrade, a man's life is involved in this. Geoffrey Bourne, candidate for Parliament. He's been blackmailed by the same group. We can stop them now, only you've got to let me out of here.
Well, I didn't know it was serious. This isn't my case. I'll have a word with Mason. He's senior arresting officer in this job. He's the only one who can let you out of here without a court order. I'll see him right away.
Well, hurry up, Lestrade. Geoffrey Bourne has only got until 7 o'clock tonight.
But you will release Holmes. No, I won't answer. Now, look here, Mason. I've known Sherlock Holmes for a very long time. I know him as a valuable colleague. If he says this marriage bureau is a fake, if he says they're blackmailers, then undoubtedly they are blackmailers.
But there is no case of any kind against the Marriage Bureau, Lestrade. If one arises, I'll investigate it. But I will not jeopardize my position by taking such a step without cause. As for Mr. Holmes, he has been formally accused, and the number of witnesses more than justify an arrest.
All right, Mason.
But this is outrageous, Lestrade. Didn't you explain?
Everything, Dr. Watson.
Right. I'll handle this case myself.
You, Dr. Watson?
Unless you care to come in and help me.
Well, I'll do what I can, of
Look,
course.
Watson, there's only one thing to do. You must break into Oliver's office, go through his private files and everything. There must be further evidence of their activities.
Break him? That's against the law. Look, maybe I could get a search warrant.
Oh, how soon, Lestrade?
Oh, it's a pity this is Sunday. Certainly not before Monday. Not with Mason here.
Yes, but look, Geoffrey Bourne only has until 7 o'clock.
Yes, but breaking and entering, that's a crime. Have you any idea what the penalty is for that?
Yes, if I remember correctly, it's...
Thank you very much, Holmes. I'd rather not know. Excuse me.
I just had to come and see for myself, Mr. Holmes. I couldn't believe it. Oh, well, I suppose I'd better tell George to get it over with.
Well, don't be hasty, Mr. Bourne. Dr. Watson's working on the case with all his energy at this very moment. must be a cylindrical lock with multiple tumblers. And that's quite a different story. Each of the tumblers operates at a different height. It's an absolutely tremendous task, Watson.
Well, what are we going to do?
Well, there's only one thing for it. Smash the lock, of course.
Why, of course. Smash the lock.
Lestrade, if you had blackmail records to keep, and they might be dangerous, where would you hide them?
Let me see. Well, blackmail's liable to turn into a running game at any time. I suppose you want them to be portable.
That's good. That's perfect. I want you to go after Dr. Watson immediately.
The office? I couldn't.
Tell him to ignore the files. Tell him to take all the paintings down off the walls, open the backs, and tear them apart if necessary.
Paintings?
Yes. Oliver's office has one wall covered with paintings, mostly Lautrec, and he hadn't even heard of him.
Well, neither have I.
Oh, go on, hurry, Lestrade. Go on.
Hello, what are you doing here?
But you gave me a start.
I gave you a start.
Look, Holmes says not to bother any more about the files.
What?
No, he says try looking behind these pictures.
Looking behind... Here, you try that. Nonsense. Oh, really, Lestrade. This is nerve-wracking enough without you beginning to hear things. Lestrade! Look! That's it.
I just spoke to Mr. Holmes. He said he'd be sure to have something by 6 o'clock.
I hope so, Jeff, for your sake.
I hope so. Your eyes are not so pretty.
I told you I heard something.
Quiet! Who's been in the... Oh, good work.
His.
Who's he?
Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard, eh? What are you doing here?
Well,
Oliver, you interfere with the national election, for one thing. We've got to clean up those files. We'll take care of them later. Edna, listen to what I'm telling you and see if you can do it right. Stand right here, and if either of them makes a move, scream. Can you do that?
Yes, Mr. Oliver.
Good. She's awfully stupid, but she can scream.
All right, Mr. Holmes, what's the meaning of this message?
It refers to a blackmail gang operating through a marriage bureau.
I've heard that accusation before, but so far I've seen no evidence to support it.
Inspector Lestrade has evidence?
Inspector Lestrade?
Yes, he's already set out for the marriage bureau to make a clean arrest of the entire gang.
But it isn't Inspector Lestrade's case. If he had evidence, he should have brought it to me.
Well, I thought of that. Anyway, he went, and according to my calculation, he should have been back by now. However, I think he may have run into some very serious difficulties.
There are strict regulations regarding such things. When he gets back here, I'll talk to him.
You can do better than that. The day can be yours, you know.
What do you mean?
Go to the marriage bureau yourself and take charge. After all, it is your case, you know.
Order a squad of men to get ready. Have them meet me at the side entrance in 5 minutes.
Don't you think she's a pretty girl, Lestrade?
What?
You know, Lestrade, I'm so surprised that any girl who's so lovely and so intelligent could be kicked around by a cad like Oliver.
Do you really think I'm pretty?
Oh, yes. From the very first moment I saw you. Yes, wouldn't you like to sit down? You must be tired standing.
Yes.
Yeah. You...
Yes?
You have the most lovely hair.
Oh.
Really, it's... I wonder... My hands are awfully uncomfortable. If you could be a dear, ease them a little, could you? Oh, something amusing?
I know I'm stupid, but not that stupid.
Oh, are you ready to go, Mr. Oliver?
Well, Inspector Lestrade?
Oh, no, not Mason.
Where are you going? Mr. Bourne, before 7. I've got to get there.
Go after him and untie his hands.
I never saw such a Sunday.
You told Inspector Mason.
I know, Lestrade, but I had to get you out of there somehow.
I was better off as I was.
Well, I considered that, but despite the injury to your pride, you know, it's best that way.
I know nothing of the kind. It was only a matter of a few moments before Dr. Watson and I had the situation completely under control.
Well, you must tell me the story. In the meantime, now that the criminals have been arrested, please let me out of here.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. But this is Inspector Mason's case. Huh? I couldn't possibly interfere with another colleague's affair.
Oh, no. Oh, Lestrade! Oh, Lestrade, my old friend! Lestrade, you old...
Sherlock Holmes solved an extraordinary case involving the theft of state secrets from a foreign embassy in London. Holmes' work virtually saved the throne of the Balkan monarch, King Conrad. In appreciation of this service, both Holmes and I were extended, and eagerly accepted, an invitation to join a royal hunting party at the Sovereign's Lodge, deep in the forest of his Balkan kingdom.
Wait. Tell the king's fortune.
Not mine. Let's hear Prince Stefan's.
Afraid of your future, cousin?
I'll tell you that when I've heard yours.
Don't worry, Conrad. I'm going to have a long, peaceful life. Tell them, girl.
Come now, Stefan, don't take it so seriously.
No, just a bit unnerving, that's all. Not some sort of joke of yours, was it?
I'm afraid not.
I imagine the girl is genuinely frightened, Prince Stefan. She's rushed out, leaving her money on the floor.
Let's forget all this. Let's drink a toast to... I can't think of anything. We've drunk to our guests and to everybody's country.
To beauty, Your Highness.
You were as thoughtful as ever, Count Magor.
Your second payment, Count Magor.
Stefan.
Remind you of the wonderful times at Monte Carlo?
Conrad!
Conrad!
He's dead.
No!
Yes, poison. But you can't tell what kind without a post-mortem.
Watson, do you think it could have been in his wine glass when we drank that last toast?
Yes, could have been. Have to be very quick acting.
Yet it seems almost incredible that one could murder so quickly and so smoothly, in front of so many witnesses.
You know, Holmes, I've come to the conclusion that these people are raving mad. I haven't had a quiet minute since we first came here.
The question, Watson, is who had the greatest motive? Even the king is capable of it, if the reason were great enough. Come in.
Won't you sit here, then?
Please sit down, gentlemen. Great shock. Terrible. But I'm afraid the consequences will be still more tragic.
War?
Stefan came here at my request as a representative of his father, King Johann. I had hoped to reach a non-aggression agreement to relieve the tension between our two countries. However, it seems that King Johann is more interested in finding an excuse for war than in preventing one.
And now, of course, he has his excuse.
Plus a genuine fury. King Johann is arriving tomorrow to take his son's body back home. I must be cleared of all suspicion before he leaves this lodge tomorrow. Mr. Holmes, will you help me?
I can only promise to try, Your Majesty. But I believe I should warn you that the speed and cunning of our murderer may place other lives in jeopardy before we see the end of this affair.
Why was Prince Stefan's wine glass taken to the kitchen and washed?
I set it aside, but the servants picked it up with the other glasses.
An analysis will serve no purpose now, Your Majesty.
Have you any more questions to ask Count Magor, Mr. Holmes?
No, Your Majesty, none at present.
You may go, Count Magor. Magor is an excellent equerry, Mr. Holmes. He's rash, but faithful.
I see. Tell me, Your Majesty, what do you know of Princess Antonia?
She was a friend of Stefan.
Mm-hmm. And her background?
She's a member of an impoverished royal house.
Have you known her long?
A few years. We met at Monte Carlo. In fact, I fell in love with her there. No surprise. Everyone did, including Stefan. She was attached to another man, whom I respected, and I was discreet. Stefan used no such discretion and swept her away from us all.
You weren't angry, sir?
No, not really. Stefan and I never really fought about anything except politics.
That's a lie. Or can't you remember as far back as this morning?
What do you mean, Antonia?
Perhaps I was mistaken.
You've made an accusation.
I apologize.
If you should require me again, Mr. Holmes, I'll be in my rooms.
Very well, Your Majesty.
I'm leaving too, Your Majesty. I wouldn't want you to think I spoke behind your back. Good night, gentlemen. Perhaps you should go and have your palms read tonight. There's a gypsy who tells amazing things.
Say, Holmes, what's she getting at?
Well, you know, Watson, it might be interesting to find out. Yes, it might be very interesting.
He's dead. I know. I saw it in his hand.
Did you see anything that wasn't written in the hand?
I see the two men quarrel.
The king and the prince.
I was waiting in the kitchen for the time when I would be told to dance. But as I go to a door, I see the two men preparing to fence.
Count Magor. 10 gold florins on Prince Stefan.
Taken, Princess, and as good as one.
Quick with your parry, Stefan.
Touché.
Your wrist, Stefan.
Miss Crutch?
You'd better have it dressed. Count Magor.
Your Majesty?
Fetch your napkin from the table. You need fencing lessons, Stefan. Your reflexes have slowed down.
I may need fencing lessons, but at least I need no lessons in sportsmanship.
What do you mean?
I was off guard. A true sportsman doesn't riposte when his adversary is off balance.
I won't forget that remark, Stefan. And I'll see that you remember it, too.
Gentlemen, Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson will be back from their walk any moment.
Then I do not look anymore.
Thank you. You've been very helpful. I think that friendly match this morning warrants some close investigation. Come, Watson. Tell me, Your Majesty, who suggested the fencing match between yourself and Prince Stefan?
Princess Antonia?
Hmm? And where are the épées?
There.
Would you mind if I had a look at them?
No.
Thank you. Is this the épée Your Majesty used?
Yes.
Did you have the choice of weapons?
Yes.
I note that the tip of this épée has been dipped in poison.
You perhaps misunderstood me earlier, Mr. Holmes. My request and your orders are to clear me, not convict me.
But it's conclusive evidence. King had the choice of épées, so he was sure to be the one who gave her the poison.
It's evidence, Watson, but fortunately for our own safety, it isn't conclusive.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, we must continue our investigations until we have a decision, one way or the other. Then we must let the facts speak for themselves.
Yes, but if you prove him guilty, he'll start a war.
My dear Watson, I can only disclose the facts. I can't alter them.
Oh, well, let's go to breakfast. Even if we are condemned men, we might as well have a hearty meal.
Right you are, Watson.
Yes, that's true.
Go back.
Do you remember what you called me in Monte Carlo? A vagabond princess.
An ambitious royal tramp. You wanted just one thing for yourself. A throne.
I still want one. Conrad, I saw you with the épées yesterday morning, before you fenced with Stefan.
Oh, the hilt of one of them was loose, and
I haven't told Mr. Holmes yet, and I won't. If
what?
Your throne's an attractive throne, and I've been told I'm not an unattractive woman.
You could have had it without blackmailing me. I was ready to marry you at Monte Carlo when you chose Stefan. I've loved you ever since.
You love?
Tell Mr. Holmes anything you want.
Conrad, I didn't know.
Get out. Get out.
Mr. Holmes.
Princess?
It poses a dilemma for you, doesn't it? You Englishmen are so honorable. Are you willing to sacrifice your honor for him?
You heard?
Yes, Your Majesty.
I did not kill Prince Stefan.
And yet the circumstantial evidence could convict you in a court of law, you know.
Mr. Holmes, you're a very dangerous man. Have I your word that when King Johann arrives, you will suppress any evidence you may have against me?
No, Your Majesty.
You're placing yourself and Dr. Watson in jeopardy.
I realized that before I started my investigations.
Count Magall.
Your Majesty?
See that Princess Antonia is confined to a room. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson are under arrest.
But look here, Your Majesty, we're British subjects.
At the moment, that is not too important. Interesting situation, eh, Watson?
Well, it's fantastic. Why, blasted Holmes, they can't throw us into prison like this without a charge or a reason.
I'd wager they could.
Well, they have.
That's what I mean.
Why else should he ask you to investigate the case for him, Holmes? You couldn't help but find him guilty.
We haven't found him guilty, Watson. It's only circumstantial evidence.
Yes, but you yourself said that was enough to convict him.
Yes, but we've missed the most significant point. The motive.
Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps it just isn't obvious.
Who gains the most by Stefan's death?
Well, no one.
Exactly. And who loses by it?
Well, now, let me see. Princess Antonia loses the throne.
And King Conrad throws his whole nation into a war for which he is totally unprepared. That brings us to Count Magor.
Magor? Well, he loses nothing.
It would appear so, wouldn't it, Watson?
What have you got on your mind, Holmes?
Watch for the guard, Watson, and tell me when he comes this way.
Right.
Watson, do you remember what Stefan said just before he collapsed?
No, I don't remember, except that he...
Well, he was rather overshadowed by the death. But he threw the gypsies' money to Magor and then said something about a second payment.
Guard.
What's that in your nose, Watson?
Eh?
Ah. Very neat, eh? Oh, look, and another one behind your ear. That's two.
Really, Holmes, this is no time for palm tricks.
I think you're quite right, old man.
Hey, come. Like the trick? Nose? Uh-huh. Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. See? There's the coin. You take, hand. Huh? Good. Now, huh? Here? Here? Yeah?
What now, Holmes? First we free Princess Antonia. Come on.
Now, Holmes. Come on. Now, Holmes. Watch yourself. Feed, Watson. Gotcha, Watson.
Sighted the King's body, sire, about a mile away.
What can I tell him, Magor?
Tell him nothing, Your Majesty. He has no proof against you.
He'd start a war merely on suspicion. I need proof of my innocence.
Count Magor?
Yes, but Holmes, he's not involved in all this.
He could have put the poison on the épée.
No. After all, how would he know which épée the king would choose? Sheer logic eliminates the count.
Not if the épée was poisoned after the duel, Watson.
You mean to throw suspicion on the king? The wine glass, perhaps?
I think not, Watson. Princess, when Prince Stefan received the scratch, Who dressed the wound?
Magor.
We must go down to the hall immediately, and we have little time, Your Highness.
But, Holmes, you can't prove anything. All the dressings have been burnt. You haven't a scrap of evidence.
Well, evidence is an interesting thing, Watson. Sometimes it can be recreated. Shall we go, Your Highness?
Yes.
Thank you. Follow me.
Johann has issued secret orders for mobilization to take effect from the moment he recrosses the frontier.
He's determined to have war and he can't be dissuaded.
Are you quite sure of that, Count Magor? If King Johann had been confronted with the truth, there would have been no cause for war. Would there, Count?
Why draw your sword, Count Magor? We are unarmed.
Put up your sword, Count Magor. What truth, Mr. Holmes?
They're wasting time, Your Majesty. So they'll be free when King Johann arrives.
Not at all, Count. We happen to have discovered the last scrap of evidence that we needed. It completely vindicates Your Majesty.
What is it? Will it convince King Johann?
I believe it will. We have found the container that held the poison.
What are you talking about, Holmes?
We've found it, Watson. Haven't we, Count?
Defend yourself, Mr. Holmes. Return the button or defend yourself.
Put up your sword, Count Magor.
I'll count to 3, Mr. Holmes.
What is in this button, Count?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing, eh? Then you shouldn't mind very much if I do this with it. On guard, Count. No, what's the matter? I'm defending myself. I say there was poison in that button. You say there wasn't. If you're right, you shouldn't mind a little dueling scratch.
No, don't.
Drop your sword. Well, Count?
Yes, you're right.
What happened in Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo?
Yes, Your Majesty. That was where Stefan got some sort of hold on him. What was it, Count?
I cheated at cards. He caught me. He took my honor and the woman I loved. I wanted to forget and start again, but he would never let me. He reminded me of it every chance he had.
And what made it more unbearable, Count, was that you continually reminded yourself. And yet you couldn't quite escape your conscience, could you?
King Johann and his party are entering the grounds, sire.
Quite frankly, Holmes, I should be glad to get back to London again and work with Lestrade. Poison swords and all that caper. I'm just not up to it.
I know just what you mean, old chap.
Oh, Holmes, I didn't care to mention this before, but did you know that Count Magor was noted for his swordsmanship?
Oh, yes. I seem to have heard about it somewhere.
Oh. Well, no offense, of course, but I mean, I've fenced with you, you know, and I mean, you're good enough, but, well, you're not that good. I mean, to stand up to him like that.
Oh, well, yes, I knew that, Watson, but fortunately, he didn't.
No, but I mean, what would have happened if he'd called your bluff? How long do you think you could have lasted with him?
Well, let's see now, about 30 or 40 seconds. But then in every game of bluff, of course, there's a certain element of risk, or it really isn't much fun, is it?
Yes. I shall be glad to see dear old Lestrade again.
Well, don't ever tell him, Watson, but so will I. So will I. Come in.
And you, Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes,
Well,
I am.
Fedman, shut the door. She's after me. Aye, there she is, the wild, mischievous creature. Look at her. Did you ever see anything so brazen?
But the street's empty.
Eh? Oh, she's gone. She faded away the moment you looked out.
Excuse me, sir, but who faded away?
Oh, the ghost of my ancestors, Heather.
Oh, her ghost?
Aye, her ghost. And a more impudent, saucy ghost you won't find in the whole of Scotland. Oh, I'm in need of a stimulant.
Cup of tea, perhaps?
No, thank you. Not that habit. But maybe you have a wee drop of Scotland's gift to civilization.
Say no more.
You know, it's upsetting being followed by a ghost.
Oh, forgive me. Allow me to complete the introductions. Dr. Watson, Mr. McGregor.
How did you know I was Malcolm McGregor, Laird of Brehallach?
I didn't, sir. Only that your name is McGregor. Your time...
I am, sir, and I wish to sell it. But she won't let me.
Heather?
Yes. Every time a buyer is handing over the money, she whisks in and scares them off. Thank you, Doctor. It was necessary.
Yes. You say she scares them off?
Money, Mr. McGregor?
I am, Mr. Holmes. The mortgage on my castle is due at midnight tomorrow night. Mr. Holmes, I have one last chance, and you've got to help me. An American is coming to look at the painting at the castle tomorrow. You must stop Heather from scaring him off. If you don't, I lose my castle.
You know, Holmes, she's a very pretty ghost.
We'll take her case, Mr. McGregor.
I cannot thank you enough, Mr. Holmes.
Not at all.
Now, you will take the Royal Scots train from the London Euston station at 9 o'clock tonight.
3 minutes past 9.
As you say, Dr. Watson. You will take that to Glasgow, and at Glasgow you will change to Buchanan Street to the Highland Railway there. Ask them to put you off at Brehallach Halt.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor.
There is just one more thing, Mr. Holmes. Will the price of your railway fare be included in your fee, or will I have to give you that out of my own pocket?
No, it's included, sir.
You're a gentleman, Mr. Holmes. You are a great gentleman.
You tell me there's very good grouse shooting up at Brehallach. Hello, Holmes. What have you found there? Woman's glove.
Mid-18th century. Curious place to find it, Watson. Very curious.
Piping in Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson. I'll see that your bags are put in your rooms.
Well, that's an experience I never thought I'd have, being piped into a Scottish castle.
I wonder who he was announcing us to.
Oh, the ghost, perhaps.
I forgot to tell you, sirs, the McGregor has gone to the village this afternoon. He intends to remain there until this evening, when he fetches the American from the station. He begs your pardon.
Gloomy old place, this. Damp, too. I shouldn't wonder if the laird has rheumatism. Hello, 8:30. He hasn't got much time till midnight.
You know, it's odd, Watson. That portrait. Do you notice that the...
Why, Holmes. It's... Shh. Let her come closer.
Reflect, and then you'll plainly see the McGregor fortune hung with me. A curse on all who dare conspire to take me down from o'er the fire.
Watson, the candelabra. This is the only way she could have come.
"50 feet straight down from here."
Oh, nothing here, Watson. Let's go and have another look in the hallway, shall we?
Is it me you're looking for?
Yes, Heather. It's you we're looking for. Your glove?
Did I drop my glove somewhere?
I think you remember. Would you care to have it back?
Are you sure it's only the glove you want to give me?
What else, then?
A kiss, maybe?
I say, Holmes.
Well, it's most extraordinary, Watson. Well, I'm afraid we must score one for Heather, and a very neat one.
Now, Holmes, I don't want to seem ridiculous, you know, but...
I know, old chap. It's quite inexplicable, for the moment anyway.
Yes, but... Well, I mean, it makes the chills run up and down your spine, and those tinkling bells. What's it all mean?
I wonder who owns the mortgage on this castle.
A Mr. Ross, the laird said, though I can't for the life of me think what he wants the place for. After all, it can't pay for itself, and it's in very poor condition.
Well, undoubtedly, Watson, we could uncover something if we worked in that direction. But I'm afraid we haven't got the time to investigate. We must attempt to deal more directly with our attractive ghost.
Have you got a scheme, Holmes?
Let's just say I have a notion.
Oh?
Well, the ghost is bound to appear for the benefit of Mr. McGregor's American client. When she does, we'll be quite prepared for her.
And how does one prepare for a ghost?
By first deciding if she is a ghost.
Well, Holmes, what's your plan?
There are 2 tiny alcoves at the head of the stairs.
Oh, just a few feet after the turn.
Each of us hides either side of the stairway. We conceal ourselves. And when Heather comes down to make her appearance, she has to pass by one of us.
And as she passes one of us will take her.
No. Let her come down and give her performance. That will establish her guilt. Then when she goes to make her exit back up the stairway, we jump out and nab her.
Brilliant, Holmes.
And since the laird should be returning shortly, we won't have very long to wait. You take the right, Watson. I'll take the left.
Right you are.
I pin in the McGregor and Mr. Samuel Scott.
Thank you, partner. That's right nice. Thought there was a couple of gents here.
Well, McLeish said they were here. They'll be taking the air, maybe.
That the great work of art I'm going to take back home?
Yes, Mr. Scott, that's a portrait of my ancestress, Heather. That's the work of a master, Mr. Scott.
Away with ye, you heartless ghasty! Begone with ye! Don't you see you'll lose my castle?
Reflect, and then you'll plainly see the McGregor fortune hung with me. A curse on all who dare conspire to take me down from o'er the fire.
Come back here. Come back, you brazen warlock, and have it out with me.
You cannot do this to me, Heather. You cannot do it. Come back.
Gone? But I didn't see her go no place.
Holmes, did you get her? No, didn't she pass you? No, I thought she passed you.
But I thought the same thing.
Why, Holmes, it is.
Yes, I know. It's impossible.
And now we return to the case of the haunted Gainsborough.
Coyotes and rattlesnakes. That's all we got where I come from. Never heard tell of a ghost.
Why does she do this to me, Mr. Holmes? It's not her castle now.
It'd suit me if you'd give me the picture and let me ride out of here, lad.
You mean, Mr. Scott? Do you mean that you still want the painting?
Well, I wouldn't want it said I got scared out of a deal by no lady. Even if she wasn't no lady. What do you want for the picture?
£5,000.
What'll you take?
1,000.
It's a deal.
You're a gentleman, Mr. Scott, a great gentleman. Well, let's go and have our supper. My appetite's returning. It'll be like a feast to me now. Will you be so kind as to follow me, gentlemen? Man, it can't be.
Would I invent such a tale?
Oh, what has she done to me?
Now listen, McLeish, you must go back to Mr. Scott. Keep him entertained. Keep him out of here as long as you can, but by no means tell him about this.
I'll do my best. As long as there's food, he'll stay, I think.
Heather, give it back to me.
It is my own portrait, and you will not sell it, Malcolm McGregor.
Have you no consideration for pity's sake? She's gone. You cannot catch a ghost.
You find something, Holmes?
Our first material evidence.
The tinkling sound.
It was sewn to something. Probably a glove.
Well, I must say, Holmes, I'm very relieved.
Well, I'm not relieved. It's 11:15 already. My painting's gone, and soon I'll lose my castle.
Now listen. You must say nothing about this to Mr. Scott. If he comes in here, tell him that you're having the painting packed. He must be kept willing to buy until midnight.
But there's nothing to buy now.
There will be.
That Holmes runs like an antelope.
I've told you before, take no chances.
I'm fed up the same old routine again and again.
I didn't like your variations.
What do you mean? I read my lines straight. I'm a professional actress and talented. You're a distressful man. I know let you down.
I'll tell you better of that when I go to collect my castle.
Can't see what you want with this tumble-down old place.
There's more in it than meets the eye.
I appreciate you having the picture crated for me. If it's ready in time, I might break camp and ride out of here tonight.
Mr. Archibald Ross.
A Take note of the fact that I'm not piped into the castle.
Ooh, only welcome guests of the laird piped into McGregor Castle.
Well, if you want my opinion, I didn't like the way you blow the pipes anyway.
You would not know good piping from bad. Your mind's too full of mortgages. And if we're passing opinions, Archie, 'tis mine that you're a disgrace to the whole of your clan.
Pack your pipes, McLeish. You're leaving soon. Well, where's my money, laird?
You'll get your money before midnight, Archibald Ross. I've still half an hour left.
And where do you hope to find it in that space of time?
I've sold the portrait of my ancestress Heather to Mr. Scott here.
You've sold it? But I see no portrait there to be sold.
I've taken it down to be packed.
You're lying.
I can pay you now, lad. Might save you a little trouble. Besides, I'd like to settle the deal and get out of here before that ghost lady turns up again.
I'll be back at midnight, or a wee bit before.
Again?
And it's got to be the most frightening performance of your life.
What, now?
No! I want to see it. Give me 10 minutes to get down the passage and out the door. I've got to return by the front door again, you know.
I'll give you a performance, Dux. It'll scare even you.
That's a fine lass.
I can see the news spreading like a prairie fire. All the way to El Paso, most likely. Sam Scott just trudged in from Europe, lugging a genuine Gainsborough.
A what?
A Gainsborough pitcher.
Oh, I see. Mr. Archibald Ross again.
Well, McGregor?
You're lacking breath, Archibald Ross. You needn't have run. There's still time.
I wasn't sure of the time.
Oh, I can't see the clock from here, but there is time, I'm telling you.
A curse upon one that is here. A curse upon him who defies my wish, my word, and my will. His deed will be done at midnight. So I lay my curse upon him to commence at that hour. He will live his days in the misery of loneliness. He will live his nights in the horror of fear. Terror will follow him like a shadow through both day and night.
Quickly, Watson.
Is she all right, Watson?
Yes, only fainted.
Mr. Holmes, is it really you?
Yes, Miss McGregor. Would you look after the girl? Dr. Watson and I must go after the painting. Thank you.
Good heavens.
Through here, Watson.
Right.
There, you'll be all right now. I suppose you got what you deserved, but I must admit that you got the worst of the scaring business. Come, lassie, and I'll take you upstairs and find a room where you can rest.
Well, Watson, when our first trap failed, there was only one answer. A secret passageway. But I wanted the ghost with it.
I say, Holmes, the painting.
Ah, good, Watson.
Well, what have you got there?
It appears to be the plans of McGregor Castle. Ah, yes, of course. This would explain Heather's fantastic exits. This whole place is honeycombed with passageways. And here's something that will interest you, Watson. An entrance to the passageway through the stone floor of the battlements.
So that's how she first disappeared on us. Feel much better now.
Well, we must get the portrait back to Mr. Scott and close the sale before midnight.
Well, what are you going to do now, Laird? You have 5 minutes left by your own clock.
Sassenach. You couldn't be mistaken. You're quite sure.
Well, Mr. McGregor, here's your portrait.
Well, you might just as well take it back where you found it. The buyer's gone and he won't come back. Thanks to your wild theatricals, Mr. Holmes.
Watson, take the picture and hold it up in front of the fireplace.
Right. Like this?
That's it.
The McGregor fortunes hang with me. Is it a curse? Or is it a clue as to where the treasure is stored? Now, let us imagine that she is above the fireplace. Which way is she pointing?
Well, I'd say that blank wall over there.
Well, you're ignoring the most significant part of the portrait. Note the wedding ring on the right hand, the sash on the left shoulder, the clan badge on the wrong side of the bonnet. In fact, everything in reverse.
Well, I've never noticed that before.
Well, Gainsborough painted her reflection. Reflect with me, and you will plainly see that she is actually pointing over there.
But that's actually about that newel post.
Pound notes. There you have.
This treasure I swear to keep until a McGregor has sore need of it. And may this Bible guard it well. Heather McGregor, A.D. 1746.
Oh, Heather, I could hug you.
Scraps of paper, every one of them.
They're pound notes. The real pound notes.
Aye, worthless ones issued by Bonnie Prince Charlie before he fled. The McGregor treasure. I'll take the deed to my castle.
One moment, Mr. Ross.
I've had enough of your tricks.
This happens to be an original Wittenberg Bible. Unappreciated in 1746, it is worth approximately £5,000 today.
It makes no difference. The castle's mine and the Bible goes with it.
And conspiracy to defraud.
And also sufficient witnesses. Not alone with your accomplice, and above all, the enormous sums that I personally can sue you for the shock to my nervous system because of that dreadful false ghost. What a mind could invent such a diabolical thing? You, sir, are probably liable to spend the rest of your life in prison. Huh?
Thank you for what you've done, Mr. Holmes.
You're very welcome, Heather.
Thank you for finding the treasure and saving the castle.
You're too good an actress for this kind of work, Heather.
But I was up to your tricks all along, though.
It will be very difficult for a woman to fool a strong and intelligent man like you, Dr. Watson. Good day and good trip.
Through the centuries, London has inspired great writers, great painters, great statesmen, and great criminals. But in the year 1896, the greatest criminal of them all suddenly came into being. His identity was unknown. He never left a clue. And all London waited breathlessly as he struck again and again with sheer audacity and terrifying brilliance.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Huh?
Well, first the gold seal from Edinburgh Castle, and then naval secrets from the Admiralty, and now Queen Elizabeth's jewels. What in thunder is Scotland Yard doing?
Dunno.
Well, it makes chills run up and down my spine. There's no clue to any of the thefts. You must have some ideas on this case.
Huh?
What are you doing, anyway?
Research.
Research? Holmes, do you realize this gang has been helping themselves to state secrets and national treasures?
Have they really?
Oh, hello, Inspector. Come on in.
Good morning, Dr. Watson. Is Holmes in?
Yes, he is, but our communications seem to be faulty.
Oh. There you are, Holmes.
Oh, good morning, Lestrade. You're up early.
Well, you'd be up early, too, if every government official in London were breathing down the back of your neck.
Yes, I must say that would make sleep rather difficult, wouldn't it?
Holmes, I'll come straight to the point. I need your help.
Indeed?
It's these extraordinary thefts. Government stuff, you know. This man and his gang have evaded every trap we've set for them, and the commissioner's demanding results.
I gather that your position is somewhat precarious and you wish to secure it, eh?
Well, all right, Holmes. You can put it that way if you wish.
Well, Lestrade, you know there's only one thing for you to do. To regain the confidence of your superiors, you must go out and capture this criminal yourself.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Holmes.
Fine, Lestrade. Good luck.
Lestrade, if I can be of any assistance, please don't hesitate to ask me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Watson. Good day.
Good day. How could you do that to him? He did everything but beg you to help him.
Well, it's the Yard's job to solve these cases. Besides, I'm always giving him help.
I should have thought if you wouldn't do it for Lestrade, at least you'd remember the security of England's being menaced by this criminal. Now, look, I know you're pressed, Holmes, but you don't seem to realize the...
That's a special blend of tobacco, Watson. You wouldn't like it. I'm sorry, Watson. I didn't mean to upset you.
Oh, no, not at all. You just startled me.
Sorry. Really.
I'm just going out for a walk in the fresh air.
Oh, yes, well, goodbye, Watson. Enjoy your walk.
Certainly Holmes's erratic behavior was enough to set my nerves on edge. But now suddenly I was far more than upset, for I had seen something in that humidor. At least, I thought I'd seen something. Perhaps it was my imagination, my nerves. But I could have sworn that mixed with the tobacco in the humidor was a diamond necklace.
Oh, are you just going out?
Yeah, you just going in?
No, I'm just strolling about.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I have an appointment.
Oh, I say, would you like me to stroll along with you?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's a private matter. I think I'd better go on my own.
Oh, right. Well, will I see you for lunch?
Most likely, yes. Really, Watson, I said it was a private matter.
No, Look, I don't want you to think that I... Holmes, you must... Yeah. Well, shall I be seeing you at lunch?
I believe we've already discussed that.
Yes, we already... When Holmes returned, he was kind enough to let the morning affair be forgotten, or apparently forgotten.
Thank you, Watson. And I hope you won't mind if I take my cup over to the desk. I have a few things to look over.
No, of course, my dear chap, do, please. His only reference to it was his remark about another private appointment that afternoon. I felt he gave a bit of undue emphasis on the word private. As for me, as terrible as the morning experience had been, it actually stressed the importance of continuing my investigation. One other thing was also made quite clear. I realized that if one were to match wits with Sherlock Holmes, one could not employ ordinary methods.
Charing Cross Station, please.
I'm sorry, sir, this cab's engaged.
That's all right. I'll double your fee.
I'm sorry, sir, this cab is not available.
But Melinda and I, we're eloping. We don't have time to,
I'm very sorry, young man.
I'll triple your fee.
For the third and last time, young man, will you kindly go and elope with somebody else?
Nobody understands us. Not your father or my mother, nor this cabbie. Come, Melinda. We will fight the world together. But we will prove our love.
Number 860.
What in heaven's name are you doing up here?
This, sir, is where the cabbie usually sits.
No. Really, Watson?
I'm sorry, sir. I think you've made a mistake, sir. My name isn't... It's Sedgley, sir.
Oh. Well, Sedgley, may I give you a word of advice? The corners of your beard are in dire need of repair.
Most extraordinary behavior. Ah, here comes the legitimate carriage. Cabby! Cabby! Well, good day, essentially.
Yes, sir, yes.
Good. 816 Bleak Street. And get a move on, I gotta catch that gent what just took off.
Get in, sir. 816 Bleak Street. Right you are, sir, right?
Minor difficulties, nothing serious. Now, Miss Ames.
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
I want you to take 15 paces to the right and 10 to the left. You must all remember that the first requisite of being a good thief is capable planning. As the newspapers have said, we are the most successful thieves England has ever known.
And now, we return to the case of the neurotic detective.
Repressed hostilities against society.
I don't think Holmes will allow any probing. Not willingly, anyway. If only you could meet him ostensibly on a non-professional basis. If I could say you were a friend of mine.
Excellent suggestion.
Now, why don't you come to dinner? I could say we were friends from my student days.
What are you having for dinner? Oh, well, never mind. Yes, I should be delighted.
Right then, fine. I'll expect you at 7 o'clock at my flat, which is 221B Baker Street.
I shall be prompt.
I hope something can be done.
Mr. Holmes's problem is really a very simple one. With skilled fingers, I shall mold him as one does a piece of clay.
Good night.
Good night.
Ah, yes, the inner workings of the mind, Professor. Fascinating.
It is amazing how many seemingly normal people are mentally disturbed. Now, take yourself, Mr. Holmes, as a purely hypothetical example. I imagine you might dream that the whole of London fails you.
On the contrary, I sleep most soundly.
Ah, but then there are all the little nervous habits, the idiosyncrasies. For instance, do you drum your fingers on the table? Do you ever pull the lobe of your left ear?
Now, you know, it's interesting that you mention those things, Professor, because I've observed that you have 3 half-smoked cigars in your coat pocket, that your shoes have lifts in them to give you greater height, and that your fingernails are bitten down to the quick. Of course, hypothetically speaking, I suppose you're what one would call an erratic man. Observe the 3 half-smoked cigars. You're also a very vain man. Observe the lifts in your shoes. And more than that, you're a very, very insecure man. Observe the fingernails. I also observe that you've mangled 3 pieces of bread and that you've hacked your roast beef with a more than culinary vengeance. Offhand, and without prejudice, mark you, I'd say that you're suffering from some very deeply repressed hostilities against society. Yes, very deeply repressed indeed.
Professor, where are you going?
You must excuse me.
Extraordinary friends you have, Watson.
Yes, indeed. place completely disappeared.
Oh, it's just as well anyway. I've got to go out myself in a few minutes.
Oh, really? A private matter?
Oh, didn't I tell you, Watson? I've been invited to a reception in honor of the new Turkish ambassador.
At the embassy?
No, no. As a matter of fact, my dear fellow, it's at the house of our Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Oh.
Good evening, Dr. Watson. Is Holmes in? I want to ask him a few questions.
I'm so glad you came, Lestrade. You're the one man I wanted to see. Now, sit down, will you? Sit down.
What's the matter?
Now, Lestrade, I want you to promise me that what I'm going to tell you, you won't reveal till your dying day.
The mood the commissioner's in, that may not be very long.
I know who London's master thief is. Holmes.
Holmes?
Holmes. Holmes! Shh. You're joking. I wish I were.
Oh, but Holmes? I don't believe it.
I can prove it. But that's not the point. The thing we've got to do is to stop Holmes, whisk him away and put him in a home somewhere.
Holmes?
Oh, hello, Lestrade. I didn't know you were here.
Oh, I just happened to be in the neighborhood.
Ah, good, good. Watson, I wonder if you could, look, can you fix this confounded thing? It keeps on popping up at the bank.
All right, hang on.
I thought you hated formal affairs.
Well, people change, you know, Lestrade. People change. Well, come on, Watson, hurry up. I want
Just a second.
Very important to do this, you know. Very important affair.
There you are. There you are.
Good, thank you. Oh, Lestrade, tell me, how's that big case of yours getting on?
Oh, fine. Terrible. We haven't a clue.
Oh, I say, flowers.
Yes, I'm escorting a rather beautiful young woman tonight. Rather picturesque, don't you think? Well, good evening, gentlemen.
Well, enjoy yourself.
Good night.
Thank you, Watson. Thank you, Lestrade.
We knew what he was going to do.
Let's look at this as Holmes would have... Well, I mean, when he was normal.
You know, those formal clothes are very odd.
Well, he was invited to a reception at the house of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Big diplomatic thing.
Yes, but ordinarily stay miles away from a thing like that.
Therefore, perhaps he has a special reason for going.
Perhaps.
Yeah? Official papers of state.
Secret documents.
In the minister's safe. Hurry, Watson. He won't slip away this time. You know, Lestrade, I've never been so unhappy in my life.
done nothing but sing and dance and talk and have a wonderful time. My feet are killing me.
Where does the minister keep you safe?
In his study.
Well, we better get over there right away and be prepared for anything. I think the danger will increase now that the party's nearly over.
You're right, Watson. Let's go. Ah, Wilkins.
I didn't see Mr. Holmes anywhere, sir. And his young lady left in a carriage, all by herself, sir.
Well, no time to lose. Dr. Watson.
Yeah?
I want you to hide behind this curtain here. And, Wilkins, what's in here? It's a cupboard. I want you to stay in here and come out when you need it.
Right, sir.
I'm going to stay in the hall. We'll get Holmes no matter what he does.
Right.
Right.
Found this chap sneaking around outside, Mr. Holmes.
Good work, Toby. Now, look, Holmes, you don't know what you're doing. You're not well.
You'll never get away with this, Holmes.
I already have. Oh, Toby, would you be good enough to ask the commissioner to come in here, please?
The commissioner?
Of Scotland Yard?
Well, naturally.
Now, look, Holmes, I'll take you away to France or Switzerland and Spain. I mean, you'll have a nice long rest.
There you are, Commissioner.
Splendid work, Mr. Holmes, splendid.
Commissioner? You too?
What are you talking about, Lestrade? And put your hands down. You're not in any danger.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes, all Britain owes you a tremendous debt of gratitude for this magnificent service.
Service? Dangers? What on earth are you talking about?
There had been a great deal of unrest in recent months regarding the adequacy of the measures employed to guard many of our national treasures and government secrets. It was discussed in the various ministries and at the Yard. It was finally decided that we would put ourselves to a test. Mr. Holmes was hired as a most worthy adversary to our security. The results were most enlightening. A far tighter security system has already been planned.
Working for Scotland Yard? But Holmes, why didn't you tell me?
Because the only true test could be obtained by keeping the utmost secrecy. Every personal reaction had to be genuine. The men from Scotland Yard were told nothing because they too were being tested. It was essential that everyone believe these thefts in order that the test could be accurate and worthwhile.
And the reactions were most amazing at the Yard.
And to think, Watson, you didn't trust me.
Oh, I say, look here, Holmes. No, Holmes, really, you've got to listen to me, please. I mean, get my point of view. I mean, for all I knew, the whole British Empire was at stake.
Well, yes, you have a point there. Come along, Sedgley.
Oh, really, Holmes?
Sedgley?
about to have a visitor.
Oh, interesting type.
And most unusual, I'd say.
I don't see anyone.
My dear Watson, the street is hardly deserted.
No, I don't mean that. I see one or two people, of course, but nobody appears to be interested in this flat.
Watson, for the past 5 minutes, that young man has been summoning up courage to call on us. He's vacillated between doubt and decision, fear and fortitude. Ah, at last fear is conquered. Fortitude is the victor.
Well, I suppose you've deduced the whole thing. Who he is, what he wants, where he comes from.
As a matter of fact, I haven't the least idea. But with so unusual a client, I fully expect a most unusual case.
If he comes here.
Wait.
Ah, the first step.
Is this Mr. Holmes' flat?
It is. Won't you come in?
Hello.
Are you Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, and that is Dr. Watson.
How'd you do?
Anything the matter?
No. It's just that...
Yes?
Well, I thought you'd be much stronger looking.
Oh, well, I'm really quite strong, you know. I can tear dictionaries in half.
Can you really?
Yes, of course, and I'd show you if I had a dictionary handy.
Well, what I've come to see you about will take brains.
Well, I think Mr. Holmes has an ample supply of those. Now, wouldn't you like to sit down?
Oh, thank you.
Now then, Memoir. Cup of tea?
No, thank you, sir. I'd like to get right down to business.
Oh, good.
Well, my name is Andrew Fenwick. I'm 11 years old, and I live at number 17 Dudley Court, Upper Spimment Street.
Splendid. Now, what appears to be your difficulty?
Mr. Holmes, my father has disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes, sir. His name is Herbert Fenwick. He's a bookkeeper at Rondale Industries. He's tall and wears glasses. Will you find him for me?
I'll do my best, Andrew, but first you'd better tell me the whole story, and anything else that may matter.
Well, sir, Dad's always been the happiest and most wonderful person in the world. Each night he'd come home and joke and tell funny stories. And every Sunday we'd take bicycle trips or fly our kites or something like that. You might see he was a pal of mine instead of just a father.
I understand. Go on.
Well, sir, starting a few months ago, Dad began to act in a very peculiar manner.
You mean he stopped being your pal?
It was more than that, Mr. Holmes. Dad began to leave the house for days at a time. He wouldn't tell Mum and me where he was going or when he'd come back. Just acted mysterious and was as jumpy as a cat.
When was the last time you saw your father?
Over 3 weeks ago. That's why I'm so worried. Usually he'd be gone for a day or two. Mr. Holmes, I'll give odds he's in some sort of trouble. And I bet Jack Driscoll is behind it all.
Jack Driscoll?
Yes, sir. Just before Dad left, the last time, he told Mum and me what to say in case this Jack Driscoll came round the house looking for him. We were to say that Dad had gone to Scotland to visit his brother. And that's got me worried too.
Why?
Because Dad hasn't got a brother.
Have you ever seen this Mr. Driscoll?
No, sir, I haven't. I don't know a thing about him, but I don't like him.
Why hasn't your mother been to the police about this?
I suppose that's because Dad told her not to do a thing about it. Not that no matter what seemed to happen, she was just to wait and have faith. But it's over 3 weeks ago. I just couldn't wait any longer.
Then your mother doesn't know you're here?
Oh, no. If I told her, she'd try to tartan me off for sure. Besides, she's been quite ill, and I wouldn't want to upset her.
Your mother hasn't been well?
No, sir. The doctor said she had pleurisy or something like that. She's been very sick. I really wouldn't want her to know I've come here.
Your visit will be held in the strictest confidence.
Thank you, sir. And you will take the case?
I'll look into it immediately.
I hope this will be enough to retain your services.
Oh, well, no, that won't be necessary, Andrew.
But I insist. It's £2 6 shillings. It's all my own money, and I saved every bit of it.
Now, I think you'd better hold on to it. Perhaps you can do me a good turn someday.
No, sir. A business deal is a business deal. Pay on the line and no welching on lips, I always say.
Very well, Andrew. It's a deal. But £2 6 shillings is far too much. I'll settle for £1.
Really? £1 enough?
Quite enough, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll let you know as soon as I hear anything, Andrew. Goodbye, my boy.
Bye, sir.
Well, Watson, we'll find that boy's father if you have to search every gambling den in England.
Gambling den?
Yes, didn't you notice his clothing?
Well, I suppose so. Nothing extraordinary there.
On the contrary. The shoes were most expensive, but the coat was threadbare. The trousers came from the best haberdashery. And the cap was ancient, attesting to the father's streaks of good luck and bad luck.
Yes, but that's not sufficient evidence to label Fenwick a gambler.
Quite right, but there were other indications. Young Andrew's speech, if you may recall, was sprinkled with the peculiar jargon of the gambler. Such terms as touted off, I'll give you odds, and welching on a debt. The boy obviously learned from his father.
I see.
Further, I'd say the man's mysterious trips were to various sporting events held outside of London. Horse races, dog races, and so on.
Yes, Holmes, but why should an apparently contented man like Fenwick suddenly turn to gambling?
Well, my guess is that the mother's serious illness created a heavy drain on Mr. Fenwick's slender financial resources. He probably hoped for the gambler's classic killing.
Well, Holmes, you've certainly answered everything.
I'm afraid not, Watson. 2 questions yet remain unanswered. Where is Mr. Herbert Fenwick? And who is the shadowy Mr. Jack Driscoll?
Where to, Holmes?
To Inspector Lestrade's office. In this particular case, he may be just the chap to help us. Now, that's what a gambler would call a long shot.
Driscoll. Jack Driscoll. Oh, yes, I remember him. He was in the coal business.
Oh, no, Lestrade. I don't believe the Driscoll you're referring to has any bearing on this case.
Stockbroker?
No, I don't think so.
Parliament?
No.
Railways?
No.
Musician?
What? If you'll excuse me, sir.
Now, what is it? What is it, Wilkins?
Jack Driscoll, sir. Alias Jack Hennessy, alias Gerald Jackson, sir. Arrested 1891, suspicion of murder, released. Arrested 1892, burglary, convicted and served 1 year. Arrested 1894, suspicion of forgery, released. At present believed involved in illegal bookmaking practice. Whereabouts unknown, sir.
Now, that unsavory brew sounds much more like our cup of tea. Tell me, Lestrade, in which of the various sporting spheres is Mr. Driscoll most active?
Rumour has it that Mr. Driscoll is concentrating his efforts on prize fight matches, sir.
Well, thank you very much for your assistance, Inspector. And you too, Wilkins. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Well, if I know you, Holmes, I suppose now we'll be attending a prize fight.
Quite right, Watson. This very evening, hulking Harry Thornton meets Powerhouse Percy O'Noonan at Londonderry Gardens. Powerhouse happens to be a personal friend of mine.
You know a fighter personally?
My dear fellow, I once blackened his eye for him.
Because he thinks. That's the kind of fighter I like, a fighter with brains.
A very good combination, Mr. Finnegan.
The best. Sometimes you make a mistake. You see the fighter what? It's hard, and you think maybe you got a champion. But if he don't think, nothing. You understand?
Oh, yes, perfectly. Tell me, Mr. Finnegan, have you got...
Excuse me. It's time Percy got started now. You can take him up now.
Brains? Oh, no, Watson, just a comparative judgment, you know.
Well, I'll have to say goodbye to you now, Mr. Holmes, but thanks for dropping in.
Not at all. Your boy was highly recommended to me.
Who told you about him?
Herbert Fennick?
Who?
Herbert Fennick.
Herbert Fennick? You know him?
Of course. I was just saying that...
Excuse me, Mr. Holmes. I've got to be going now.
Curious reaction.
Perhaps not so curious, Watson. The proper use of that name may open several tightly barred doors.
Proper use? What do you mean, Holmes?
Well, if I'm correct, you'll soon see for yourself. Just let's continue to drop the name.
That's it now. Hold it. Hold it. Keep your eyes open. Right. 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 Watch it now, Percy. Watch it. That's it. That's it. Hold it now. Hold it. That's right. Keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. Now! I tell you to keep your eyes open. Get up!
Good old Herbert Fennick. I must remember to get his advice on next week's card.
You know, it's a pity poor old Bert Penny couldn't come with us this evening.
Yes. Do you know what old Herbert Fennick told me this morning?
No, what did Herbert Fennick tell you this morning?
You hear that?
You know, Watson, it's not every day you can meet a man who'll give you insight.
Sounds like just what Driscoll's been looking for.
I told you that admit it. You remember I said...
What are you waiting for?
That we met a chap like...
Don't like taking him here. They might get roughed a bit later, then somebody says they saw him leave with us.
Do you think the street would be any better?
You know him?
Mr. Holmes, the big one is. He knew Percy. Didn't catch the other bloke's name, but he looks like a fighter I used to know. Got the sack for using unfair tactics.
I figured he was a bad one. Got a nasty look about him.
Well, if he tries anything, don't expect any Marquis of Queensberry out of him. Use some of your own tactics.
Righto.
Get to it now before the Upton leaves.
Let him know we mean business right from the outset.
Stand by, Watson. I think we shall have company in a moment. I beg your pardon?
Herbert Fennick a friend of yours?
Yes, but I don't see why...
You come with us.
Certainly not. Who are you?
It will be much easier on you if you don't make a fuss.
Where are we going?
To see a gentleman who would like to talk to you about Mr. Fenwick.
All I want to know from you is where you saw Fennick last.
Well, I believe it was at Murgatroyd's saloon.
No lie. Here, I say, look. Fennick wouldn't go to Murgatroyd's. Maybe the Green Man or the Houndstooth or the Brass Goblet, but never Murgatroyd's. There isn't too much money.
Well, Mr. Driscoll, we've been to a lot of places today. Perhaps it was one of the others.
How do you know my name?
Well,
you were pointed out to us. It seems you're quite a well-known figure in certain circles.
Well...
Mr. Driscoll, if we should see Mr. Fennick again, is there any message you'd like us to give him?
He knows what I want, that Wilshire.
Oh, he's in debt to you, is he?
Over £1,000. I'm not willing any longer to collect. If I get my hands on Fennick, that'll be the last of him. And that goes for you, too, if I ever find out you helped him in any way. Now, get out of here.
Good evening, gentlemen.
People just don't have any manners anymore.
And this is not the time to instruct them. Come, Watson.
Well, I only hope we're going to a place where they appreciate proper behavior and the finer things of life. Oh, sorry, Governor.
Not at all, sir. Not at all. Oh, really, Holmes, we've been to the Coach and Horses, the Green Man, the King's Head. We've interviewed dozens of disreputable characters. Must we go through all this process again?
I'm afraid so, Watson. It's the only place that we can obtain some further information as to Fenwick's whereabouts.
No.
Oh, barman.
Yes, sir?
2 pints of mild and bitter, please. Oh, and some information.
Mild and bitter's cheap, sir.
But not the information, eh?
Oh, no, sir.
Herbert Fenwick.
Oh, him, poor chap.
What do you mean?
It was along here not a few weeks ago. We were talking confidential like. Told me he booked a passage to America. Too bad he won't be able to use it now.
Oh? Why not?
We say you haven't heard.
No.
Fenwick's dead. Suicide a few hours ago.
But how? Where?
He rented a room not far from here. And he went down to the Thames and threw himself in. Left a note saying he was in trouble, couldn't go on.
Let's see. Have they found his body?
Oh, no, not yet. Only his hat floating in the water. Poor chap, wasn't a bad sort of a chap, you know, but gambler. Had a run of bad luck.
Come, Watson, we must hurry, or Fenwick's luck may turn from bad to worse.
Bad to worse, he's dead.
Well, there you are, Holmes. What more do you want?
The body.
Oh, we'll soon find that. There's no doubt about that. The river patrol's dragging the Thames already.
I assure you, Inspector, Herbert Fenwick is still alive.
Then why should he write a suicide note?
Surely the question is, why should Fenwick write a suicide note in such explicit detail? Listen, this is a terrible thing to do, but I have made up my mind. It is the only way to end my difficulties. Today at 6 p.m., I'm going to the Thames. I will jump from the Hertford Bridge. Forgive me, but have faith. Signed, Herbert L. Fenwick.
No, Holmes, I can't follow that line of reasoning.
Then perhaps this may convince you. Take a look at that hatband with Fenwick's name on it. You'll notice that it's absolutely brand new, whereas the hat, of course, is unmistakably old.
You mean then, Holmes, that Fenwick here had his name put into his band in the last 2 or 3 days?
Exactly. Merely a ruse to make people believe that he committed suicide.
Yes, but why should a man say he's dead if he isn't?
Well, to avoid his muscular creditors, for one thing. If they believed the reports of his death, they'd have no choice but to write him off as a total loss.
Yes, but if he's still alive, somebody's bound to see him sooner or later.
Not if he's made plans to go to America.
All right, then. I'll have an alarm sent out to all the ships in port.
I'm afraid, Lestrade, that'll be too late.
Now, what do you mean?
Because he has no money. He needs it badly, and he needs it quickly. And there's only one way in which he can cover both his needs.
What way is that, Holmes?
Robbery.
What, do you think he'd take the chance?
Of course he would. Fenwick's desperate. And in any case, there's very little chance when one considers that no one would suspect a dead man of committing the crime.
Now, Holmes, what am I supposed to do? Warn everybody in London that a robbery's going to take place?
Oh, I wouldn't go as far as that, Lestrade. I judge that Fenwick will strike at one of 3 places. The Wagon and Horses, the Green Man, or the King's Head.
I say, Holmes, how can you narrow it down to that?
Because Fenwick can feel certain that everyone in those places has heard the news of his death. Therefore, no suspicion could be directed at him.
I don't know why I let you talk me into these things.
Then you'll assign men to cover the Wagon and Horses and the Green Man?
Yes, yes.
Good, but there isn't much time. You'll have to get on with it immediately.
All right. You know, sometimes you're worse than the commissioner.
Tell me, Holmes, what about the King's Head?
Ah, that will be our little project, Watson. But first, I want you to carry out a mission of the utmost importance. Now, listen to me closely.
Yes, I've seen them come and go. big and small, happy and sad. And I tends to my business and keeps my hands clean.
Ah, well, that's a splendid philosophy.
Yeah? It's getting near closing time.
Oh, yes, sir. So it is.
Put your hands up. I'll take that if you don't mind.
I'm sure he does, but then he has very little choice, has he?
You, get over there. Go on, hurry up. You two. Go on.
I'm sorry, Holmes. We had a bit of difficulty again.
Oh. Oh, no.
I've got him, Fenwick.
What?
Brilliant job, Fenwick. Absolutely brilliant.
Dad! Now, what's the game? Let me go.
Go on, sit down, you villain. Here, give me the gun. Now, not a word out of you.
But
not a word.
Dad, is it really you?
Of course it is, Andrew. Your father has been working on a special assignment for the Secret Service. Haven't you?
Oh, Andy, my Andy.
Now, you don't need to say anything, Mr. Fenwick. Your behavior is the model of a hero.
Oh.
Take this man away.
No, you listen to me.
We'll have plenty of time for listening to you later.
Well, who is he? What's he done?
Who is he? Why, he's a spy working for a foreign government.
Spy?
Yes.
Foreign government?
And these, Lestrade, are the secret documents he was stealing from our Navy.
Hey, that's my account book.
A likely story, indeed.
Here, let me see them.
No, you certainly can't see them. They're even too secret for you.
Now, a minute, Governor. There's been a mistake here somewhere. I'm just,
Wilkins, do as Lestrade orders. Take this man away. Yes, Miss Holmes.
I'll be standing up behind the bar all day.
Yeah,
Or
come
I'll
on,
be...
you.
You know, wait a
Come
minute.
on,
Let me say something. This is a crime.
You see, Andrew, your father has been working on a most dangerous case. During the secret investigations, quite naturally, he couldn't tell you anything about his activities. However, I think that he can now remove his disguise.
Yes, of course.
Gosh, Dad, Mum and me were so worried.
Your father is really to be congratulated, Andrew. You see, the Foreign Office chose him specially for this very important task because no one in the underworld would have suspected him of being connected with the law.
Mr. Holmes, I don't quite know how to thank you.
Well, Fenwick, now the job is done. Of course, you'll have to return to your old job and take up the strings of your old life again. But if I know you, you'll work hard, meet all your obligations, and carry on like the splendid citizen you are.
That's just what I'm going to do. I'll never leave my family again.
Then good night, Mr. Fenwick. And good luck.
Come on, Andy. Let's go home.
Oh, Andrew, I've just remembered something. Here's your pound bag.
Golly.
Come on, sir.
Straight, I've just had a sudden thought. I think perhaps you'd better release that bartender. He must be getting rather upset by now.
Holmes, either you've gone insane or I have.
No more insane than usual. After all, everyone is entitled to make a mistake. Scotland Yard does sometimes, you know. I'm at least entitled to one. Good night, Inspector.